Shields up, Ironbreakers. Rurikhan here coming at you with another episode of the Third Fleet Podcast. This is episode 33, and I'm here with the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Gaijin Hunter. How you doing, sir?
Sorry, I was dozing off there. I need more Monster Hunter stories. I'm an addict. I can't even sleep anymore. I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
We're basically both completely and utterly and hopelessly addicted to stories too. And it's actually been really fun because I've been live streaming the whole experience. So like we said in the last podcast, I went ahead right to the beginning with, one day before the embargo lifted, I did the demo. I did like the whole demo again with a fresh character. The embargo lifted. I did everything up until where my character was from me having played it before. And then I went back to my main character and I just played. So I did the whole story on stream. People loved it. It was amazing. I'm still playing it. It's completely insane. But before we start, because I'm already getting ahead of myself, I'm super excited.
Yeah.
Let me just set some ground rules here, guys, about spoilers, because obviously we're going to be talking about stories too. And I know that different people are going to have different things that they may or may not want to consider spoilers. It's like me and Gaijin, we were looking over the amount of monsters that were revealed in trailers, the amount of monsters that are revealed in the website. And apart from like the final boss and maybe like one or two monsters that we're probably not even going to end up bringing up, it's like there's almost nothing that we can spoil for you that hasn't already been spoiled through friggin' either trailers or clips that were posted on Twitter or stuff that is on the website. Like most of the monsters, Capcom has already revealed, as they tend to do with most Monster Hunter games. So the only thing that we will not bring up pretty much in any shape or form is most definitely the final boss, because we want to preserve that experience for you. And obviously we're not going to talk about specific story beats. We will talk around the story. We're not going to go like, oh, and then we were here and then this thing happened. No, we're going to say, oh, here's something that I liked about the story or something I didn't like, without going into specifics. So if you want to listen to the podcast, you are definitely not going to get spoiled on anything story-wise, but we are going to be talking about a lot of the monsters because, like I said, they've already been either announced on trailers, clips, website, all over the place. We kind of knew all of the monsters that were in the game as we were going through the game. So,
Yeah, I mean, I would note that the expectation and the reality is that if you know anything about Monster Hunter Stories 1, just imagine that most, if not all, of that roster is in this game as well. And obviously, I think I would think it's fair to say that this game, because of the timeline, is almost like a tribute to World as well. I think it's like taking the Stories 1 roster and adding in a bunch of Monster Hunter World, which is really nice. And it was a treat to see those monsters. But like, we might mention an off subspecies that maybe wasn't shown, but like, we're just not going to consider that a spoiler because it's just, I mean, there's so many monsters in this game anyways.
Yeah, there's like, I haven't even...
No story stuff.
I haven't even seen all of them, like not even close. I thought it was funny because
What percentage is your Monsterpedia at? Mine's only at like 41%.
Mine is above 50. Mine's above 50%.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, but it's like I've been playing quite a bit after I finished the game. So let's try to get some kind of like semblance of organization here. You finished the game at this point.
Yes. Well, I hate the term "finish the game." But
yeah, it's weird. You finished the story.
I got through the wonderful tutorial, which is the story. So I got through the main. Same with Yuna. She actually did it before me, but we got through the main story, and now we're on post game stuff. Yes.
Yeah, I've finished the story as well, and now what I'm curious about is I don't know if you paid attention to it or not, but how much time did it take you to finish the story?
So I don't know. Is the demo hours included? They probably are, right?
The demo hours are included in your save file.
I'd probably say 60 hours, almost on the dot.
Okay. Mine was 73 hours because I there were several times where I was going through the game and I was like, I don't feel like doing story right now. Right now, I feel like going to get some eggs, or I feel like, oh, I want to craft this piece of armor. I want to craft this thing. You know, you just had those. I had those natural stops throughout the game where I was just like, hey, I'm just gonna go do something else. I'm gonna do it an Everden. I need some bottle caps for something or whatever. So I would go out and I would just like interrupt the story and go do it. And I thought the game is done really well in that it has a lot of natural stops. It's not like, okay, now we're going to go, and once we get going, it's not going to stop for because JRPGs, at least I have experience with a lot of JRPGs that have a tendency to do that, where they're like, okay, now listen, this next section is going to be like 2 or 3 hours nonstop, and Stories 2 doesn't do it. As a matter of fact, Stories 2 to me almost doesn't even feel like what I would expect from a JRPG, because a lot of JRPGs that you play, they tend to be very long-winded with their dialogues. It's like exposition. Like you can almost call it the sin of over-exposition, because a lot of JRPGs do that. They still end up being good games, a lot of them, in my opinion. But they do tend to do that.
It's just clean.
Yeah, exactly.
And the problem is that Yuna really got invested in the story. So once, and it's always been juicy, but once things start really kicking up in the second half, like even more, she did not want to stop to do anything. So she plowed ahead of me. And so like she'd be in her room, I'm in the living room, and we'd have to shut the door and she's like, say something. And we're blah, 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 like making noise so I don't hear something that's a spoiler as she's going through it. Because I wanted to see if, and she's like, no, you go in your room, like just put on headphones or something. She couldn't wait. She just could not. Where me, I was doing what you were doing. I was like, oh my God, I want to make that. There's so much optional fun stuff to do. And I barely scratched the surface on my playthrough. And the only reason why I cleared through the story instead of doing all that was because it was engaging. And I really wanted to
and I guess
where things were going.
And let's be real. A part of you wanted to also finish the story to talk about it with Yuna. Come on.
Well, I knew I was going to get spoiled by it. Well, I wanted to play with her, and the thing is I need to get in the same progression for us to play together. So, and then we'll get into this later. But once I started realizing how the game is balanced, I started realizing that it wasn't all that bad. If there's a section where you want to focus on story, go for it. If you want to focus on collecting, go for it. Like the game is so open and free with how you want to engage with it. This is a masterclass, I think, for JRPGs. I think this is almost the best execution of the JRPG formula I've ever seen. In fact, it may be the best.
I don't know if it's the best I've ever seen, but it's the best I've seen in recent memory. Because, like I said, JRPGs do tend to sometimes shackle you a little bit with the over-exposition. And I never felt that from this game at all. Like, I was like...
Well, not just that. I'm just saying, like, general pacing,
Yeah.
Like, general pacing or, like it just almost very few little areas that I could nag on. But, like, it's just a clean, fun, straight-through experience. Like, you didn't have your quiet, sloggy sections or anything like that, or having to grind to get here. Like, we'll get into the details, but, like, I don't know. I'm struggling in my mind right now of where to place this now in the JRPG, my top JRPGs. I don't know if I don't even call it a JRPG. I mean, I guess it is.
It feels more
like an action adventure.
It feels more like just an actual RPG than a JRPG, this game, because of the fact that it doesn't have all of those tropes that you kind of expect. And, all of those things, the pacing issues and whatnot that I personally tend to have with some JRPGs. This one just doesn't have them.
It's a writer role-playing game.
Yeah, exactly. We're just gonna start making up genres now, because why not? I mean, Kojima does it. Why can't we? Right? I mean, like, what's the big deal? Kojima did a Strand genre, right? Well, we have the writer RPG genre. There you go. It's
There we go. However, I will say that was really interesting. Did you see his English? I'm gonna I'll be the first one to side rail us, but did you see his tweets in English?
No.
He was talking about how he does not like the fact that they're calling it director's cut for the upcoming. I wouldn't call it. It's more like the definitive edition of Death Stranding, where they've added in some stuff. And he said on Twitter in English, he's like, I don't. Director's cuts means that it wasn't the director's. There's scenes because of whatever that they didn't get the editorial power to put in all the things they wanted to, and he's like, that's not the case at all. So I'm like, oh man, he's taking public shots at Sony now. That's hilarious.
Dude, it's like that thing. I swear that publishers think that people in the West are stupid. They're just like, no, you're too stupid to understand what this game is, so we're just going to tell you it's a director's cut. It's the same. Like, you remember the whole thing, I don't know if you ever saw it, but like, for instance, BioShock Infinite, the original cover design that they were going to do was going to be Elizabeth, which was the female character that supports the character that you play as. That was going to be the main thing in the box art, but they changed it to a male protagonist with a shotgun or something like that, because like, yeah, this is going to sell in the West. Like, publishers are really like, you people in the West are dumb. You guys are just dumb. You just don't get it. So it's like, it's
the mystery
director's
that's
cut.
Been around for it's like my whole life. It's 30, 40 years of why are they still messing with box art in the West? I don't know.
It's so weird.
It makes no sense to me.
I'm gonna be real in regards to that whole to the BioShock Infinite one. At least the Elizabeth box art would have been something that would be more appealing to me, even though BioShock is not particularly appealing to begin with. But Elizabeth in the cover would have been more interesting than whatever the guy's name is. Just like director's cut again doesn't make any sense to Death Stranding. It's so weird, director's cut.
Well, it's just funny because the whole marketing was like, this is the pure vision of the director. I'm like, well, it doesn't seem like the publishing hand had, they weren't completely hands off, are they?
It's weird. That stuff is really
either
weird.
Either that, or I'm just finding another way to make fun of Sony. I don't know.
Yeah, here we go again. let's not get started with that, shall we?
Let's not get started.
But hey, listen, if we're gonna okay, now you've opened up the floodgates. If we're gonna go on rants, I have a massive rant to go on, dude. This is a good one. It's related to the topic. This one is very related to the topic of stories too, though. This one's gonna feel so good. So listen, every single time in my videos that I would say the name of my favorite monster, some goddamn know-it-all would come out of the woodwork and try to correct my pronunciation of the name of my favorite monster. This has happened multiple times, to the point where some people flat out called me an idiot. Okay? So my pronunciation of my favorite monster is basil goose. I've always called it basil goose, and people would call me an idiot. They'd be like, are you stupid? Don't you know it's pronounced like the star Beetlejuice? Don't you know it's supposed to be Beetlejuice? I've seen this comment in my...
I call it Basil, but Basil Geese is how I've always said it. But
wait. We're going to get there. But these people will come in there and they'd be like, oh man, it's Beetlejuice. And they'd call me an idiot and all of this stuff. So when I finally heard in Stories 2, Naviru pronounce the name in English, oh man, it felt so good. It's not basil goose. It's basil geese.
Basil geese. Hang on, I'm gonna make a note of this because I did not play this one.
Yeah.
Basil geese.
Yeah, basil geese. That's what he called it. So all of you that are in the comment sections typing, calling me an idiot and telling me it's Beetlejuice, y'all wrong. You're wrong. You lose. Goodbye. God, that felt good. That felt so good, dude. Oh, man. When I heard him say basil geese, I was like, got him. At least I was closer than they were.
Yeah. I mean, I will... Ever since Capcom flip-flopped on Tigrex, I just like, it doesn't matter anymore. It really doesn't. Especially because people have different accents and different regions may go for different styles. Like, it doesn't matter. As long as I know who you're talking about, whatever.
It just felt so good. Because, like, I don't care. I don't care that much. I just try to pronounce things the way that I think they're right. But people constantly going, it's Beetlejuice, man. It's Beetlejuice. And I was like, Jesus, stop. Obnoxious.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's let's get back on topic. And I wanted to ask you, like, we've talked about the visuals before, the art style, and all of that. Now that you've experienced the entire game, do you have any more comment in regards to the visuals of Stories 2? Both of us played it on the Switch, by the way. None of us played it on PC. I've seen people play on PC though. The only really noticeable thing is the frame rate, and of course, there's a little bit more resolution, which I can't really tell because, it's on a live stream. I've seen people stream it on Twitch, which Twitch caps your bitrate at 6,500. So you can put 4K in there and people barely notice the difference between 720p and 4K because there's no bitrate. But yeah, you can tell that there's a little bit more resolution and the frame rate is just way, way, way better.
Almost,
yeah, it's way better than the Switch. Like we're definitely taking a significant hit, and I've talked about this in my review video where it's like, there are several sections in the game where it will chug, but again, it's not a Twitch reflex based game, so it's not really that big of a deal, so it didn't bother me too much. But you go ahead, anything that you want to say about visuals?
My God, is the game gorgeous. Like, seriously, I'm constantly in awe. Even you as well. We're constantly, damn, this game is pretty. Like, it's not just the art direction. It's just everything about it. I think it's a combination of art direction and just the
animation
assets and how they do it is so well done. And their use of I'm not going to use the English name for it because it sounds stupid, but camera bokeh. I guess the kind of bokeh is what Apple snottily calls it, but it's the blur effect from a camera in the background, the field of depth
of field
is done so well. Yeah, and then the fact that they don't use hard lines, they do it very, it looks like there's times where I look at it and I swear to God it was just a very high quality anime movie I'm watching because there's no hard blacks, like everything's very soft and looks unbelievable. Like it's just, man, what a game. Like it's just, I'm constantly in awe. I'm one of those people who I don't mind the performance. I mean, of course, I would love it to be better. Who wouldn't, right? Like, hell, give me 120 FPS for God's sake. I mean, but at least for me, my eyes adjust pretty fast. So I'd say after 20 minutes, it's less noticeable. And when it is noticeable, it's kind of funny. I'm like, they're going into the FPS field where the flowers are killing the FPS. They should have just had the flowers sitting there, but they decided to animate them. And it's just kind of funny. But you're so engrossed in what's going on during those things that it's like, who the hell cares? At least for me. And if you care, you got the PC option. So it's like they covered their bases. It plays amazing for a device that literally fits in your pocket. Like if you take off the Joy-Cons, you can put the Switch in your back pocket, generally, depending on what you're wearing. The fact that a game like this runs well is just
the visuals. The visuals on the Switch, I do find them actually impressive. Like, we have performance hiccups and whatnot, but they're so impressive. And the stuff that they do with some of those animations, like we've talked about this before, the exaggerated animations of the kinship attacks and whatnot, but it's like you guys haven't seen anything. Like, I don't know how many kinships people have seen, but like just take a look at, say, for instance, Zenogre's kinship, and it's just like, dude, like there's definitely a situation here where Capcom is playing favorites with some of the monsters. Like you see some of the monsters like, okay, yeah, sure, it's fine. And then you see Zenogre and you're like, whoa, wait, what? Like Zenogre's kinship is on a different level.
Now, I don't know if people know this, but this game is not actually developed by Capcom. I mean, they have a lot of key people involved, so they're producing it, and they're giving direction, and they're adding the sauce, but the core development is by Marvelous.
Oh.
And same with the first game as well. And whatever team they put together is amazing.
I thought it was weird because I noticed at the end credits, because I always watch the credits till the end whenever I stream a game, right? And I noticed that I saw Marvelous in there, and I was like, Marvelous? That's weird.
Yeah.
They're usually not involved in Capcom games. But it's like, I didn't think too much of it, but it's like, oh, that makes sense. So they were the ones developing it. All right.
Yeah, but they worked so closely with them that you couldn't tell the difference. But like, just like, man, hats off to Marvelous or the teams that are behind the game, because it's great. And you know what? I'm gonna go and say it now. Like, I actually now very much want to see a hunting Monster Hunter game with this art style. I don't. It's not a preference thing. Like, I wouldn't. I'm not saying I want this over another one, but now I love this art style so much that I think it's more rich than I thought it would look, you know?
This is exactly why I want it, because like that was going to be my follow-up question. This is the reason why I wanted to bring this up, because then I was going to ask, hey, so what do you think about them making a hunting game with these visuals? Remember how me and Shepard, we talked about this on the 2 podcasts ago, whatever. Yeah. Like, me and Shepard like 100%, dude, give us a hunting game in this art style. It is beautiful.
Give me anything with this art direction. I mean, give me I don't know, a chess game with, I'd play it. Like, I can't get enough of it.
Yeah, like I've had so many comments during my stream whenever like I'd be riding a certain monster and people are like, oh my God, this monster looks insane in Stories 2. And I'm like, I know, this art style is amazing.
But like it's not just the monsters and animation though, it's also the environments.
Yeah, everything.
Like, I know they're
amazing.
doing a lot. They're doing lots of, you know, repeating geometry and stuff, but the way they do it looks and feels so good and natural. The world building is just so well realized. Like, man,
that is actually the geometry thing that you just brought up is actually one of the very few complaints that I have about the game, is that it does get repetitive. Like, you start to recognize the map patterns very quickly. Like, you go, for instance, after you've done some of the stuff in Alcala, like, which is like the second zone of the game, after you've done some of the stuff in there, you start going into caves and you're like, okay, I recognize this thing. I've seen this before in a different cave. It is very quick that I started recognizing. It's like, it's not super important because, you know, the game is about the egg hunting.
I actually like that.
And the monsters and all of that. And I don't know. I just thought that it'd be cool if they had a couple of more variations so that feeling didn't came as fast as it did for me. Like, I started recognizing stuff like a little bit too fast. Like, if they had the thing is, it's like, where are you going to put your it's a budget thing, right? Where are you going to put your budget? You're going to put your budget on making different looking levels, or you're going to put your budget on Zenogre's kinship animation. And I think they made the right decision of putting the budget in Zenogre's kinship animation.
Well, not just that, the dens that are procedurally generated can be quite long. Like, they can be quite big. They're like labyrinths. So I personally find the fact that I can generally spot, like, okay, this pattern, generally I want to go in this direction, that was a huge help for me. Because I'm like, I'm going to be doing this for hundreds of hours. I don't want to get lost every time.
Yeah, there's that,
you know, because you can't just open the map because they don't show you because it's random. So, like, I kind of like the idea that I know where to go if I'm... And then there's monster skills, of course, which also I think was a fantastic idea.
The field skills?
You know, the field skills, we'll have to talk about in its own section. But those are just amazing. So, I think there's pros and cons to it.
Yeah. But visual-wise, it's one of those things. If you care about frame rate and performance, you need to get the PC version instead. It's just that simple. If you're going to be someone that's going to be like, oh man, the game dipped like 10 frames. Actually, not even 10. Sometimes the game just dipped like 30 frames. It was like near 60 and now it's at 20. Like, what is going on? Like, if that bothers you, then seriously get the PC version because that is going to happen. And however, if the portability is the more important thing for you, then get the Switch version. There is also a problem with the PC version, I've been informed, which is the game. There's some region locking things going on with matchmaking.
Apparently Steam is region locking. Apparently, because I don't know, but people are saying that the co-op and the stuff, it's defaulting and region locking it to the Steam region, which feels like a bug. So it's like people are like looking for people and they're not finding anybody because they're literally only looking for people in your country with those IP addresses. So that's weird. I'm hoping they fix that.
Yeah, I'm hoping that's something that they can work out and fix, but it is very, very weird. And this is one of those situations that could potentially not show up during QA because, you know, you have your QA team located like reasonably close to one another because they probably used to work in the company. So it's like, hey, we tested the multiplayer, it's working fine. You know, it's like, so yeah, that's one of those things that does not easily show up in QA, I don't think. So I'm not particularly
However, I will say
surprised.
At least while people, if they don't fix it, I think it'll be a very legit gripe that they should get. But I think it doesn't feel like it's intended because, you know, they advertise play with players around the world and stuff like that. Like, so it does not feel intentional. And I would just say the good thing is that while we wait for them to probably patch it, nothing in the game requires you to have another physical player. The co-op is designed in a way where the game will give you a very, very competent AI player if you go into a co-op mission just alone. Like, the AI partners are like, in fact, I'd say they're almost too good. They're so good.
Oh, really?
That people will probably be like, you know what? Maybe I don't want to play with another human being. This player heals when I need them to heal. They're different than me. They have powerful attacks. They're the same level as me. I like it. That being said, I did do a few random co-ops, and it was quite fun. It's a little bit like mayhem at first, but you know, it's not a game. It's not a showstopper. So if you plan on doing co-op missions and you're like, well, if I can't play with anybody, then I'm screwed. That's not the case. So hopefully they fix it, but at least the game is designed in a way that they're fine.
Yeah. So yeah, visuals good. Let's talk a little bit about like the sounds and soundtrack. Whereas I didn't have any complaints in sounds. I thought the sounds overall were pretty good. I would say that sometimes the footsteps of monsties when you're running around can be a little bit overbearing. Like, I feel like the thing is they're trying to convey a sense of like weight and power to these creatures, right? The problem is if you're running, particularly like say a bulldrome, and you're like, okay, let me dash with my bulldrome, and then you're just going through the thing and you're listening, like boom, boom, boom. If you have like your headphones set to a reasonable volume because you want to hear like the effects and stuff, and then suddenly you're hearing like bulldromes thumping in your head, it's like, I get it. But I guess that's one of the things that I can comment on sounds, but it doesn't bother me too much. Usually what I do is I just swap to a monster that doesn't make that much noise. It's like, whatever. I'll just ride something that is not as noisy.
Here's a weird thing that I noticed that I was going to ask you if you noticed, but it feels like a mistake, but the base volume for this game is loud as hell.
Yes.
Compared to other games.
Very
so like
much.
When you're just looking at if you're just looking at like the base gain or whatever, like if you're playing Rise or another game and then you go to stories, you're like, oh shit, I gotta turn the volume down. Like, I thought it was a demo only thing, but no, it's in the game as well. You have to
like I can tell you right now because I have OBS open and it still has the settings that I use for stories. And the volume for, just like game audio, usually I have it at around 80% for most games. And this one, I have it below 50. It's like at 40 something. It's insane.
It's a good 25% louder than other games, which is just, I don't know why that's the case. I mean, it's not hot, so I mean, the audio is still good quality. It just means that if you're playing late at night and you were playing something else or you're watching something, you got to be careful when you swap over to stories. Like, turn down the volume a little bit before you do that. I don't know.
They want you to hear those kinship attacks, man. You gotta feel like you see the friggin' scale of those attacks. You gotta hear. It's gotta be reverberated in the audio.
Yes.
But yeah, the sounds are good. In terms of soundtracks, I thought it was also pretty good. I'm not sure if I like. I think I still like Rise's soundtrack better though overall.
Oh yeah.
Because
I would agree.
Rise was the first time that they introduced like the vocals for Town and whatnot, feel super chill. And I really, really wish they would reconsider the decision of not having soundtrack when you're exploring. How do you feel about that? Like when you're just out in the world and exploring, there's nothing. It's silence and ambient noise, and there's no soundtrack going off during those moments. And I guess it's one of those things where, how in the main game you associate music when you're in the gameplay areas, you associate music to combat because like, okay, there's a monster, it's targeting me, there's music. And it almost feels like that was a design decision for this game. It's like, hey, the music represents, you being in combat, so we're not going to have music when you're out in the world. Or maybe they thought the tracks that they created were too repetitive or something. I don't know. But I would like to have something just like chill in the background while I was going through stuff. But yeah, it
I
doesn't
mean,
have
I
it.
think as an option it would be nice. I mean, I agree with you. I think it was a conscious decision because they like when you have a rare collectible item that's near you, you hear little
Yeah.
twinkles and there's little audio clues that tell you stuff, or just the idea that when you enter combat, it feels more impactful, just like it does in the main game. Like if you're over in the Verdant Hills, there's like no sound at all. You just hear, it's some Velocidrome screaming. But once you get into like a battle, then it's like, and the music kicks up and it starts going. So, I don't mind it personally, but I think it would be a nice option if they let you take some of their, because they do have some very nice ambient tracks, and I think
Yeah.
it would be a cool option if you want to add in a BGM for the field, that they would let you do that maybe.
Yeah, like the Muhammad track, for instance, I think is really chill. Like a couple of tracks in those vibes for each of the zones, I think would be friggin' brilliant. And I think you'd still be able to hear like the shinies through it. It's just a matter of tweaking the volume and
Yeah.
whatnot. But yeah, that was like my biggest thing about sound is like I wish that I had some, because the thing is the way that it works, you either cut the whole music, like if you want to hear something else, like say okay, but I can put on my own music in the background or something. The problem is then you go into combat and the music kicks in, so you either cut off all the music or not. You can't even like have your own stuff running because that will. And I want to hear the combat music because the combat tracks are actually really really good. I really like them. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't none of the songs in the game have felt grating or repetitive so far. I like everything that I hear.
Mm. So I have one complaint in terms of voice acting. So a lot of people I've been hearing bad things about Naviru since the beginning, like since the first trailer. I feel people are like, "Oh my God, Naviru's voice is so bad. I hate it." I have no
I'm
issues with
guilty of that.
Naviru's voice. I have
But
zero problems with it. I think
I've
it's
seen a lot
actually
of people
really
have said
good.
it's done really good. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've heard
I,
that.
I really like his voice. I like most of the voices in the game. No like big issues with the exception of one character. And
This is so wild, and I'll go into this after you go on. But go
It's
for it. Rant.
Roberto. I'm sorry, dude. Yo, dude. The fungus among us, man. Yo, yeah. Yeah. And I'm just like, it's not even about the dude bro surfer thing that they're trying to pull with him. Like that's not even I wouldn't even be bothered if they had a character that acted like that. It's just the way in which they do it sounds so completely unnatural that it just provides a contrast to pretty much all of the other characters. There's like, hey, we had amazing voice acting, and then we had this guy. I mean, not this guy, but we had this character. Like that to me was what it was. Like all of the voice acting to me is fine, no issues whatsoever. Everything sounds great. And then there's Roberto, and I was just like, this. It completely always took. It's one of those things that was downright immersion breaking. Every time he spoke, I was like, oh right, this is a video game. It's exactly one of those things. Like, oh right, this is a video game
it doesn't
character.
feel natural, right?
Yeah, it feels so weird. Like, and again, there's ways to do that. The dude bro thing, but Roberto, I thought was terrible.
So this is so interesting. We were talking a little bit before we started on this one. Is that I'm playing with Japanese voices and English text, and even Yuna last night specifically commented about Roberto, and she's like, "Damn, they got good voice actors for this game," because he is absolutely amazing. Oh, all the characters, but him in particular, he's a wonderfully voiced character in the Japanese anime, the first game, this game as well. He does not have a dude bro thing at all. In Japanese, that's not a thing. He's just like imagine you were joining like the military and you had like the really cool sort of a superior guy with you who's just laid back and just but super like smart and dependable and witty and just
Wow.
sounds. I'm like he's he's got a deep, wonderful, beautiful sounding voice. Like he's wonderful in Japanese.
Oh
Like
my
this is a
god.
guy that I would like to go on an adventure with, you know. But
So,
the
so
English written versus the voice I hear, there's such a gap between those two guys. It's so funny.
yeah, it's
I
interesting the way that you describe him because now the things that he's saying and the way that he's acting makes sense now that you've described what that character is supposed to be. But the voice acting just like destroys all of that sentiment that you just said. To me, at least, I don't know
that's
if anybody got
yeah,
a
it's
different
unfortunate.
idea, but to me, it was just like, dude, that was oof. I don't know what
But
to tell you about that.
I'll have to say this because I was a little harsh on Rise for some of the localization, which is rare.
Yeah.
There were some things that just mistakes or things or whatever. But the dialogue was fine, of course, for that game. But like the being a game that you also, I mean, there's a lot of voice dialogue in this game. I was really surprised
Yes.
about that. Like it does not feel like your typical like reading through text boxes like crazy. But when no, even when there's text though,
You
like
barely ever
it's
have to
really
do
well
it.
written.
Yeah, and the thing is, when they do have those situations where it's like, okay, this little bit is not voice acted, it is so concise. Like we said, it is so clean. It's like, okay, here's two text boxes, and they go right to the point. It's like, here you go. Here's what you got to do. Boom, done.
Go.
Like they don't want
Yeah,
you
this
sitting there reading through text boxes. They're like, no, go out into the world and go adventure and either get monsties or whatever you want to do. We don't want you here reading text.
it feels like someone took a time machine and they looked at the old JRPGs of the past and said, what were all the faults and how are we not going to fall in those pitfalls? Like they
Yeah.
fixed almost all the issues that I have with older games that didn't age well, and they did some great improvements as well. But yeah, the English writing is really good. I like it a lot. Naviru is really funny in English. I love as he is very much the same energy as he is in Japanese. It's kind of interesting that in Japanese he's voiced by a lady who's one of my favorite voice actors. Mao is great. So she does his voice, and in English he's a guy. Um, but the thing is like the writing and the jokes are really good and they're really on point. And it's funny that I saw some people on Twitter commenting about there's one point in the story where there's a few points where he makes some jokes and they're just like really they're kind of like, oh come on, really. But the thing is those are so intentional.
Yeah.
The point is there because he can be very witty and very funny, but there's certain points where he tries to have like a big moment, and it's kind of like, dude, you're stretching it. And it's funny because the characters in the world is aware of that, and they play that. That's the
Yeah.
joke. So like I saw some people saying, oh, this line was so. It wasn't even funny. I'm like, that's the point.
That's
Like
the point of
that's how
Naviru. Yeah, that's his humor.
the whole point is that joke was not supposed to hit everybody. That's the point. And I thought they did it really well.
The joke is
Especially
in the
hearing-
reaction of the other characters. That's where the joke is.
Oh yeah. But from like a localization standpoint, there's the way that they did the jokes, but they do a lot of wordplay, right? So they
Yeah.
can't do it the same way. They did a really good job of translating his jokes over to something that English players would like.
Yeah, I
So,
thought it felt
props.
most of the stuff that he said I thought felt very very natural. So I was like, yeah, that's cool.
That and he's different in this game. You didn't play through the whole first game, but in the
No.
first game, he was very much lovable, but an idiot for the most part. Like the joke was that he was almost always wrong. He sits there saying, "I'm the best," and then he's like, "Follow me, go this way," and it's always the wrong way. And that was kind of like the joke. But this time they said, okay, he's had time to mature. He's actually quite smart. He's not an idiot. So like when he says he senses something, like there's actually something there, where before it was just him being stupid. So like I like the fact that they found a way that felt natural to not redo his character, but to make him actually helpful. Like you are happy he's there along with you. Like I don't think you could have completed the journey without him.
Yeah, and
And
I thought he was a cool character. It just felt like a good companion to have around. Where people said that in Stories 1, he was usually just annoying, whatever. Like, during the whole adventure, he just felt like a cool character to have around. So I was like, yeah, cool.
yeah, I like him a lot. So they did a really good job on him.
Yeah.
All the characters are really good done. I'm just like super engaging. So the story in the title is very much a home run in my opinion.
Yeah,
I mean,
which
yeah,
was
the story is
it was
it's not
the
for
next thing that
kids.
I was gonna segue us into was the story, and it's a very interesting thing because like I've seen several comments from people that said that they can't get into this game because of the art style. And it's like, look, it's understandable that art style is not going to be appealing to everyone, but then you see that art style, and there's also the people who will say, well, it's clearly a kids game. It's a kids game. It's like, oh my god, you're so wrong. You are so incredibly wrong. You have no idea.
I was say
Like
they
the
really
story
strike a good. I
goes
mean,
places.
the first game was also like that, but not as much as this one. It definitely feels like they hit the sweet spot of, you know, that the story is going to have some, you know, tropes and cliches, you know, of the genre. Like that's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
However, there's enough uniqueness there and maturity there that it was engaging both for my daughter who's 12. Everyone thinks she's 7 because YouTube's been recommending a video for some reason that was like 5 years old. Um, it was engaging for both of us. Like we had a really good time. So, I mean, this is not a novel that's going to, or The Matrix or something
Yeah.
like that, but it's not like just saying, oh, it's a functional story. No, it's actually an engaging story with really endearing characters. So I was very happy with the story. And with
Yeah,
the pacing is so good.
I really enjoyed the story. It almost made me reconsider if 4 was still my favorite Monster Hunter story, but I still think it is, but it's also because I'm very biased towards the whole, hey, we're going on an adventure and we have like this airship that we're going in and whatnot. This is what happens in 4. You go on an airship and you go through several villages. And the whole airship and companionship of having like your smithy with you and all that stuff plays special for me. So I still kind of like, I still think that 4, you know, right now things are still fresh, right? So I'm still a little bit in
Yeah.
flux with my thoughts. I still think that 4 is my favorite one, but definitely the Story of Stories 2 made me like, man, but this story goes, it's really good. They
What I
did
was
a
gonna say
really
is like
good job
when I was playing through it, the story part, the thing that hit me, and one of the things that I've been struggling of how to put this into words,
without
but
spoiling.
well, no, it's not that at all. It's it gave me vibes of Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. Like it
Yeah.
has it shares some of the same DNA, which we've talked about on the podcast before. That the reason why I feel that we say story, but that could mean so many different things. Like, okay, is it the characters? Is it the dialogue? Is it the adventure? Is it the set pieces? Is it the actual lore, the story? Like, there's lots of different interpretations, but the feeling of going on a true adventure, you know, like not knowing where you're headed next and going somewhere to a far distant land, and then this happens, and then characters that you meet them again, and things are developing. Like it feels like an adventure, you know, like a really good fantasy movie that
Yeah.
you watched when you were a kid in the 80s or something. So in that sense, I got a really wonderful Monster Hunter 4U vibe because this is an adventure. Like it they don't spend too long in one location, to the point where it's like, okay, they only had the budget to make 3 big worlds, and we're just gonna have tons of dialogue to fill in, which is what a lot of modern JRPGs do. It was almost like AAA quality, but with variety and adventure.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that you're not always. This is what I loved about For You, is that you're not always just walking to the next area. Like there's different modes and different trajectories of how and why you get to new areas, right? You're not always like, okay, it's Lord of the Rings, like, okay, Village 1, okay, now we're going to Village 2, now we're walking to Village 3. You know, it's not progression in the sense of it's not the Oregon Trail, you know, and we lost some friends along the way. It's like it feels natural. Like even the characters are not aware of what's going to happen. And so they're just winging it, you know. They're trying to figure things out as things unfold, and that's to me that's so engaging. And that just it goes down to the writing. The writing is just really good.
Yeah, they did a pretty good job overall. There were a couple of situations where, although I guess that could have been because I played through certain zones twice. Now I'm thinking about if that was the case. Yeah. Yeah, cuz see, like, due to the fact that I played through some of the initial zones twice and I already knew what was going to happen, some of it felt a little bit fetch questy, right?
Yeah.
But thinking back to it,
The
I'm like,
first time.
well, yeah, but the first time it didn't feel like that. It felt like we were tackling a problem. It's just that now I know where this is going, and it's beginning to feel fetch questy. But no, never mind. Actually, I was wrong. This was going to be something that I was going to complain about. But the more I think about it, I'm like, no, that happened to you because you played it twice in order to show the
Yeah.
story to everybody.
I mean, it's a game, so when you start going into the grind, or if you start
Yeah.
repeating stuff, you start to feel the game part of it. Like, okay,
Yeah.
this is a mechanic where I think they did such a good job with pacing and variety as you go through the game that it wasn't like, okay, every time I go to a new village, they're gonna make me, kill 3 monsters, collect this and this and that. Like the mechanics aren't groundbreaking. I mean, they are still doing the same thing that most
Yeah.
games do, but it's just the way that they frame it all feels natural, and nothing felt like, okay, this they're padding it here. Like that, I can't reiterate how crazy that is. That this is like a 40 to 60 hour story experience with basically no padding, like at all, which is crazy. Like that's a beefy adventure.
Yeah.
Like you take like old school Final Fantasy games, which I adore, half that game is grinding your level. And that's a point we'll probably get into
Yeah,
later in the podcast. But
you don't actually
the
have to
leveling
do that.
system is
You don't actually have to do that here because I've even had someone who went into my stream the other day telling me that they finished the game in like 19 hours. They just like beeline the story. I'm pretty sure that they were playing at like times 3 or something to do that. Like times 3, skipping everything, probably even skipping some cutscenes. Just like boom, 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 boom.
I mean,
and they
I
went
played
through
it
it in
times
19.
3. I played
didn't.
times 3, except for the first time when I get to see a kinship attack, I always bring it down to 1, and I call Una in the room, or she calls me into her room, and we watch the kinship,
The kinship.
attacks together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I did was I played through the whole game. I think I did the whole game at times 1, and then after I finished the game, then I started. Okay, if it's a new monster, I'll do times 1. But if it's something that I've already fought and I'm just like grinding it out, I'm gonna do times 3. I eventually started going for times 3 because I love watching those animations, but they really do add length to the fight.
Yeah. Well, now you are in the more hardcore kind of grindy part, right?
Yeah.
But I'd say like throughout the story, it was really funny when like Yuna was, screw it, I'll just talk about it now, just so people know. This is a feature I adore, is they have a system where, depending on the level of the monster that you have in your party versus the level of the monster you're fighting, they will give an experience modifier to that monster. So if you hatch a level 1 Yankuku, and I bring him into one of the end game areas, and I just do one battle, he will be level 12. I do one more battle, he's level 22. Like, they level up immediately. And the reason, I think there's a few reasons why they did this. One of the gripes that I saw from reviewers was, yeah, some of the battles are just too long. Like, I wanted them to be slower, and I'm thinking, this is not a JRPG where you go and you fight everybody in the dungeon. You're
supposed to avoid.
pick your fights.
Yeah.
Yeah, you pick your fights because when you get to the next area, the way that they boosted or the way that they balanced the EXP grind is so well tuned. And I don't know if that's because they had to delay it from last year and they had time to really just tweak with it. It's so well tuned that it never feels like, okay, I just wasted my time grinding this monster, because you didn't. You got to feel the benefits of it and it was good. But you also don't feel like getting a new monster is any kind of a burden. Like, if you give me a level 1 right now, I'd be like, okay. Now, I'm sure that's going to change when you get into, like, super post-game and, like, you have got, like, level 90 guys, and I don't think it's going to be that easy to get a guy that's 90, but at that point, you're just having fun with min-maxing and stuff like that. And by that time, you know who your key monster... You're not hunting for new monsters at that point. You're hunting for new genes for them. So I think just the way they balanced was so good. It's unbelievable. Like I could be 3-4 levels, ahead of Yuna, and boom, immediately she's very close by, just for progressing. But it didn't feel cheap to me.
And the interesting thing is also, even when you do fight monsters that are harder, because of the way combat works, if you pay attention, it doesn't necessarily feel unfair. Like I had this one situation where I was doing a side quest and I wasn't paying attention to it. I was like, oh, there's a side quest then here. I'm going to go in. And I didn't see what quest it was from because the quest specifically said hard. So I had no idea what I was getting. I was just like, yeah, fine. This is fine. This is like I think it was in the 4th area. Yeah, it was in the 4th area. So I go in there and I go inside the den and, there's a monster there. And I was like, okay, so this is the monster that I have to fight. This is fine. I start fighting the monster and I lose a head-to-head because I made a mistake. Actually, I think it was the first time I was fighting this monster. I'm not going to say which monster it was. It's not important. But I'm fighting this monster and I lose a head-to-head. And I was like, okay, I lost. I messed up. That's fine. But now I know what attack it is. And then as the head-to-head resolves, he kills me. I was like, wait, what? I get one shot. I was like, wait, what? And so I go on with the fight and I keep going and I keep bobbing, even trying to do my best and, trying to recover. And then suddenly he one-shots one of my monsters and I was just like, Jesus Christ. But then I started paying really close attention to every single thing this monster was doing and I killed him. Because, again, the way that the combat works, you can start predicting stuff. So, like, okay, monster targets
man's game.
Monster targets your monster. You're like, okay, let's make sure my monster is going to do the attack that's going to interrupt his, and I'm going to attack at the same time because that means no damage. So you do the thing, boom, double attack, no damage whatsoever. And then it's like when there is no line and the monster isn't going to attack anyone, I already know. Okay, now he's going to do a special attack, which in this monster could be one of two things. And I was like, okay, I just have to ensure that I'm full health. And then he does this thing, and then I'm like, okay, we're full health, we're good to go, and keep on going. And sometimes when there wasn't the arrow there, I'd be like, okay, the monster's going to do his attack, but I have full kinship, so I can use my kinship to interrupt his attack. And I struggled through it on stream with just like one little heart left, but I went all the way and I beat it. And it feels great because, again, it is a very rewarding combat system. So not only the XP is balanced, but sometimes even if you're fighting something that is, significantly harder than a usual monster, if you pay attention, you can pretty much get by almost unscathed, which is really, really good.
Which is actually funny you say that because last night me and Yuna did our first co-op quest together. We're finally at the point where we're equals. So I grinded out 100 bottle caps and bought an SR ticket. I'm like, okay, we're gonna do a good quest. We're gonna get ourselves a good monster, hopefully, and hopefully we won't get our butts kicked because we're not that far into post game. I'll just put it that way. Like just until like yesterday afternoon, I was using a bullfango weapon.
A bullfango weapon?
So we get it.
A bull drone weapon, like low rank?
A bull drone, yeah. No.
Okay,
high rank one. We'll talk about later.
We'll talk about high rank and low rank.
Yeah. But I will say this: like we got in there, and there was the co-op quests are fun because you can grab eggs and you can collect stuff, and then you get your boss. But we got to one of the free egg zones, and we pulled too many times.
Okay.
And a white monoblos, high rank, charges in and hits us, and we both were like, "Oh great, we just wasted a co-op ticket. Like this, it's over." And I'm like, "Wait a second, no, like this is my Well, I was like, we thought we were gonna get slaughtered by this.
No,
thing.
Dude.
And I said, wait a second, this is my main monstie in this game. It is. It's my favorite right now, and I called it Yuna. Is my white monoblos because she screams and she's loud and obnoxious at times, and she can one hit kill. She's brutal. So I call.
That's a good
I call it white
description
metal
for
bullshit.
your daughter.
I know.
She can.
Well, I told her, and
kill.
I told her, and she gave me a chef kiss. She loved it. So we get in there, and the thing is, like, we know all the moves that this thing can do, and co-op, like physical co-op in this game, is so good.
Yeah, because you can actually plan the stuff that you. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm like, and the thing is, if you have like at least 2 monsters that are well balanced for the system, you can pretty much beat anybody if you play it right with 2 players. As long as you're not against a monster that does like several attacks in a row or something. Even then, the game is smart. It won't it won't cheese spam one guy or whatever. But we got through that battle without taking any damage at all.
Yeah,
any damage and no healing, no hearts lost. And we're like, damn, we got this, because her monsters complemented mine. And so we'd be there, and I'd be like, oh crap, my guy doesn't have a technical. Can you can you get your monster to do a technical because he's targeting me? She's like, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, then we'll get the dual attack, and then you get more options when it's co-op, and I actually think that it's easier, which is in a good way. Like, it's easier because you have, if you play it strategically. If you just go in there just button mashing and choosing whatever, you're gonna get your butt kicked.
But then again,
But the thing is,
you'll get your butt kicked doing that in single player anyway.
Yeah, and it's funny is we got to the end of the cave, and it was a Kieran, and we are not far into high rank stuff, and I'm like, this is a high rank elder dragon. I'm like, oh god. I was like, we're not gonna win, but we can try, because like as long as you have enough health to survive one hit, like just barely, you have a good team, you're golden. You're good.
Yeah.
So we did it. We didn't lose any hearts, and it took us quite some time because we were playing it out and having fun. But man, did it feel good.
Yeah.
It was so satisfying.
That's the thing. It feels great when you clutch those moments, and those are things that are only going to feel great like early on in the game. So you really have to treasure when stuff like that happens, and you pull it off, and you're just like, yeah, freaking beat it, boom.
It's really funny because Yuna didn't even understand the dual attack system that well, because she's like, wait a second, how did you just do that? And I had to explain, it's like, you have to know who the monster's targeting. That's everything. And once you know that, the game really opens up, and it doesn't feel artificially easy, but it's super rewarding, especially because like you'll get your one monster and you're like, okay, this is my boy. I'm giving all the good genes to this guy. He's got tons of stuff. His one weak spot on my team is that if a technical attack comes, I'm getting my butt kicked. So then you're like, I'm going to give him one power skill from another monster. It's going to be something that's cheap enough that he can use it without much gauge, and it's going to save his butt. And it does every time. And it's like, you can design your monsters that way. Like, he will not choose it himself because they always choose their strongest element. But you can choose it. And it's just, it's especially later in the game when you start getting the ability to charge up your gauges faster. The amount of strategy you can do is so fun.
You have no idea how fast I charge my kinship gauge.
Oh yeah.
With the gun lens, forget about it. I always tell my stream, hey guys, look, the monster's attacking me. You guys want to see me do a magic trick? The first couple of times people see me do that, they're like, what? What's going on with your kinship gauge? It went from 0 to full. And I'm like, gun lance, baby.
Yeah. Yeah, the weapon balance is also really well done.
Well, I
think so.
I mean, you know, you look at some of the weapons. I look at some of the weapons now and say, for instance, I look at a hammer, it's got like 158 damage, and then I look at the corresponding gun lengths of the same level, and it's got 100. And I'm just like, hey, I'm missing about 58 raw damage in my weapon here. Excuse me, sir. I have complaints. But the problem is, if they hadn't nerfed the damage of the gun lengths, in PvP, it would be broken. Like, you have no, like, I'll just be like, hey, you and your monster, yeah, you're a monster, real cool. Wyvern fire, boom! Everybody takes the damage. You hit the player and the monster, so they gotta nerf the damage somewhere, otherwise the weapon would be broken. But I don't know how things are gonna shape out in terms of balance, but it is weird that you see the damage on the other weapons and then you see the damage on the gun lance, and it is a lot lower.
But the functionality is so unique. You don't get that with other stuff. And there's armor and stuff in the game that plays to each weapon, so you can definitely choose, like, okay, this is the one I like the most, so I'm going to use this more. But you still have, you do switch between weapons and have fun that way. You don't have to. The thing I want to stress here is, and I don't know if you agree, is that there's a lot of depth, and to a certain degree you have to engage with the mechanics, but you don't have to go all the way down the rabbit hole. This is not like, some crazy complex JRPG where you gotta really know all these different mechanics. Like, it's easy to grasp, it's rewarding to do, and you can go deep down the rabbit hole if you want to, but you don't have to. So
I feel like
I never found it stressful
to play. I don't know what the bow is like, because that's the one weapon that I didn't try out. I didn't try out bow or hunting horn. I played greatsword because obviously they give you the greatsword at the start, so you have to kind of learn. But I feel like at least with gun lance and greatsword, you need to learn how it works, because it's not something that is going to happen by you just like, doing the right attacks at the right time. You have to use the right skills. So like, for instance, with the greatsword, if you don't do the skill, the tackle thing, it never charges up. You'll never do the big attacks.
Do you want to sidestep and just quick talk about the weapons and our thoughts and just explain the mechanics? Because I think it's interesting.
Yeah, we can talk about the weapons. Speaking of which weapons are you using?
Like monster or just type?
No.
I'm almost always defaulting to hammer. Hammer is my
no. Which actual weapons? I mean, because you're using 3 weapons. You're using the 3 types, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. So which weapons are you using?
But the thing is, my set is so good and so tailored for hammer that
you can just hammer through everything.
I don't give a crap if they give me that little X mark saying this is not. I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah, because the ham you can do. I've noticed you can do that with a hammer. Like, so many times, my stream would also be like super amazed. Like, wait a minute, did you just break a monster's part with the wrong weapon type? And I'm like, yeah. Welcome to hammer.
Yeah. Well, we'll put it this way. I have Part Breaker XL on.
Oh,
as well,
okay. Okay, I see what you're doing.
And my weapon itself also has Part Breaker M on it. Oh yeah.
Wait. How does the weapon have part? What?
Oh, sorry. I'm thinking about the
You're thinking about the skill.
Sorry.
Oh, the equipment.
Yeah, the armor skills.
Okay.
So like everything is tailored.
My weapon has part. Wait, what?
Yeah, everything. So we'll get the hammer. Let's start with greatsword though. So greatsword is what Yuna uses mostly.
No, but wait. You still haven't told me which weapons you use. You're like, I just use hammer. Do you use 3 hammers? No, you use hammer and what do you use for slashing?
Well, the thing is
normally.
Well, the thing is, oh, okay, that's what you mean. Like weapon.
Yeah. Like
what monster weapon? I'm like, well,
no. What weapon loadout are you using? Like, which 3 weapons do you? Which 3 weapon types do you use?
Yeah, for slicing, I go with greatsword.
Okay.
For piercing, I go with bow, but I'm very, very interested to try gunlance because there are a lot of sets that have skills on there that make me go like, oh, now that sounds fun. And then, I played bow enough. I played a lot actually throughout the main story, to the point that bow really starts to open up if you do, and this is true of all the weapons. Like, there's new skills that you can get by doing side quests with NPCs. But if you don't know that, like don't, like, there's one NPC in the back of a town that if you didn't talk to him, you don't get to use arc shot. But at least the game finds ways to introduce these mechanics to you, so you at least know they exist, and you're like, wait, I want that.
No, I've listen. That is actually one of my complaints. Like, this is a big complaint that I have, which is the whole side, because they paint the side quests as not being important. So what I end up doing is, like, I would go to a town. I mean, like, most of them are not. Most of the side quests are not that important. That's what I'm saying. So, like, you start assuming, okay, so side quests, whatever. Like, I'll do them if I feel like it. It's not a big deal. So usually I will go to a town, and it's like, if the side quest includes killing a monster, I'll always reactivate it again. So that if I run into a monster and I kill it, I'll get rewards again. So that's what I do. I just keep all of the side quests open, but I don't actively seek them out.
I very purposely don't do that, and I'll tell you why later. But
yeah, but like playing this way, I managed to play through the entire game while missing one gunland skill. Which today I was on my stream. Today, as I'm going through Endgame, someone in my stream tells me, "Why didn't you use this skill back there?" And I'm like, "Excuse me, I'm playing gunlands." He's like, "Yeah, exactly. It's a gunland skill." I was like, "Wait, what?" So then they started telling me about side quests that have the skill in it. And I remember I did a quest earlier in the game that gave me the counter block ability for the sword and shield. And then I never did anything else again that looked like it. But then I went to look, and sure enough, I found out that there was a gunland skill that I could use to protect my teammates. You can actually use it to taunt monsters. Yeah. And I was like, what? That's crazy.
It's because some of them are a very big deal. So I agree with you that I think they should have colored those. Like the bubbles are like blue when there's a subquest over an NPC. I think if they made them like red or something different, to say this is a subquest that will give you something that is not just a consumable item. This is like a substantial thing. That would have been a better move, I think.
Yeah, they
Luckily,
definitely should.
I spotted that really early, so
they should identify those quests somehow, the ones that give you skills for your weapon, because they're really important for me to be able to play through the entire game and not even be aware that there was a quest there for me to like. And I pick up all the quests, I just don't look at all of them because there's so many.
So here's a question: have you picked up? Yuna didn't know about it. She's like, "What the hell?" Did you pick up the side quest that unlocks the ability to combine and make your own ancient potions?
I might have. I might not. I don't know.
There's some really key items that you can combine, but you have to do the quest to get the combo book for it. It's great because it gives a lot of meaning to doing side quests, but I agree that some players may not notice it, and so if you're going to, I would say most
players won't. It's like, guys, when you pick up a side quest, which you'll pick up plenty of them, make sure to take a good look at the rewards.
So what those rewards? Yeah. Some of them are juicy. So for piercing, I was using bow for a very long time, and then I started not liking it. Because there's a very high risk involved. So I want to go through the mechanics. We'll go through them one by one. I won't get into it. But anyways, I'm going to start using gunlands because I'm very interested to try because I haven't touched it yet. And then for blunt weapons, I was using hunting horn for a long time until I discovered hammer. And hammer so I love so much in this game.
I haven't changed weapons. I haven't changed weapons the whole time.
Gunlands, and gunlands?
No.
I have 3 gunlances on my...
So pretty much what I had in the demo is the same. Because like I don't even feel like using any other weapons because of the way that I play the game. It's just like each weapon has a very specific function. Besides the fact that, when you want to get the right typings and all that, like I have very specific functions for each weapon. So I use the hammer for whenever you have something that's rough and that you can't break it any other way. You're going to need the hammer. Like you're fighting a Basarios without a hammer, you're screwed. A hammer or a hunting horn, right? You need a blunt weapon for that. So that's one of the things that I do. I use that for weakness. Like any chance I can, I'm using gunlance because gunlance, what it lets you do is basically control the kinship gauge. Like you just basically get kinship, as much kinship as you want almost, which is crazy. And then sword and shield. And the sword and shield is really good because it's a freestyle weapon. It doesn't have any gauges to worry about, doesn't have anything. You just use it and it's great. And the really cool, unique thing, not unique, but like one of the biggest uses that I have out of my sword and shield is like whenever a monster goes down, I was like, well, sword and shield, special attack, all crits. It's like massive damage. It's beautiful. So like the sword and shield is actually my punish weapon. Whenever the monster goes down, I swap the sword and shield and do a special. Like unless I have kinship, at which point I'll just do the kinship for maximum damage. But sword and shield is my punish weapon, straight up. But that's the way that I've been playing with them. But go on. You want to talk about great sword? So let's talk about mechanics.
I thought I'd give the players a crash course on why the weapons are cool. So, I mean, obviously they're split into 3 subtypes like we were just talking about. There's slicing, piercing, and blunt damage. And different parts of the monster. Like there's lots of times where you can target a different part of a monster. They'll have like if you have a blunt weapon, there's generally going to be at least one part that is more susceptible to that type. If you have a cutting weapon, there's generally going to be a body part that is susceptible to cutting.
Depends
maybe not
on
always,
the monster.
but
Depends
yeah,
on the
maybe
monster.
not always, but
I can tell you several monsters are not vulnerable to piercing anywhere. Because I just want to use the gun lance on literally anything and I can't. And I'm just like, God damn it.
So, and then within those the three archetypes, you get two choices of what you want to use. And you can bring 3 weapons with you and swap them once a turn. And you don't lose your turn. So, very easy to swap through these scenes. So, the Greatsword, the whole point of the Greatsword is you have to spend some kinship gauge. But you can do attacks that will add a charge to your weapon. And then you can hold the charge, and then at any time when you feel fit, you can then do like a super attack, like a triple charge or a wide sweep or something like that. So it's interesting because it requires a little bit of gauge management, but your timing of when you actually unleash it is kind of up to you. So it's a really nice punish weapon. And does tons of damage. So
yeah,
I don't know. Is there any other mechanic that you or thoughts you have on
the Greatsword? No, not really. I mean, the cool thing about the Greatsword is, like you said, it requires gauge management, but the payoff is I think it has the most damage out of any weapon in this game. Like if you do things right and you save your charge until the right moment, you're gonna basically be pulling off numbers that most of us are only gonna see. When the monster's downed or out of a kinship attack, which is insane.
I don't know. Yesterday, I had a crit that was insane with the hammer. It was on a Kieran, no less.
If you were to play Greatsword right and you had a comparable Greatsword, it would deal more damage. It would.
2,200 damage.
It would deal more damage.
Wow.
Okay. I guarantee it would. Like, listen, just because of how the weapons work, it would do more damage. Like, hammer is not going to out damage Greatsword because the specialty of the hammer is breaking things. You have the break, and unless the game there's a balancing problem. Like, unless there was a balancing problem in a weapon or something.
No. You're right.
So it's like
big damage, big numbers.
I mean, this is also obviously assuming, that you're hitting something that would be weak to the Greatsword as well. Because, like, obviously you're hitting something with the hammer. It's probably weak to the hammer. So it's just a similar part with the similar hit zone for the Greatsword. Greatsword would deal more damage.
Yeah, Greatsword is great. Ha ha ha.
Ha!
Sword and Shield, you explained the base mechanics for Sword and Shield since you've played it.
Sword and Shield doesn't really have any particular base mechanics. It does everything the other weapons do, so you can attack, do technicals or whatever, all of the attacks that you have. Then each Sword and Shield is going to have like different attacks depending on the type. So like if you have a Fire Sword and Shield, it's going to have like the Blaze Slash. If you have a Dragon Sword and Shield, it's going to have Dragon Slash. But they pretty much do the same thing. So they deal a little bit more elemental damage. So if you align the elements, I feel like with Sword and Shield, you'll deal a little bit more damage. But it's not going to be something that is massive because I still feel that elemental damage is not super important in this game. That's the vibe that I get. Like, sure, with Sword and Shield, you get a little bit more out of it, but it's not that big a deal. And the other mechanic that it has is that you have all of the guard things. So you can guard, you can counterattack. The counter is really good because there's a lot of situations where sometimes you go into a combat and you'll just see the 3 lines pointed directly at you and you're like, okay, that's the part where I pull out the Sword and Shield and you're like, counter stance. All right, so everybody attacks you, you block and you counter every single attack.
Every single one. It's not just a one-time thing.
No. So it's like,
I wish I knew that.
Every time that I get those 3 arrows, sometimes even 2 arrows pointed at me, I'm like, oh, okay, Sword and Shield time, counter, boom, and you counterattack every single time. I've had situations where I've had like a really powerful monster attack me, and I counter, and I will crit and deal more damage than the monster attack, which is insane. So yeah, it's pretty good. But yeah, the Sword and Shield is basically the weapon that you don't have to worry about gauge. It doesn't really have a gauge to worry about. It's just like you just play it, and that's it.
That's cool.
And it's got blocking.
So
It's one of two weapons that have blocking. There's only two weapons that have blocks. But I think the hammer has absolute evasion, right? Not sure how that works.
Yeah.
Though. I haven't used it that much.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. So that's the slicing weapons.
Tell us about the hunting horn.
Going into Pierce. Let's
okay, Pierce.
Let's
sure.
go piercing first.
Tell me both.
You can talk about gun lance, and I can talk about bow.
Yeah.
So, the bow is interesting because it requires you. I would say not gauge management as much as this is turn management. So, in order to get the most out of your bow, you have to charge it, and a charge doesn't really cost much or anything. You forfeit a turn.
I would say that a turn is a pretty big cost.
To say, well, it is you're sacrificing a turn so that you can do 2.5 turns worth of damage. The next one, if you aim for the right part and you're using the right weapon. So it's got fantastic potential, but if you're just attacking, you're not going to be doing that much. So you do have to choose charge. So it's like one of those scenes where you're waiting. You see that it's targeting your monster, and you're like, okay, we can go for the double, but if he can, it's much better for bow if you don't, and say, okay, I'll let him overtake it. He can take the damage. I will charge, and then next turn I'll do that. Or if I see the monster's going to do a special, and I know that's a charge, I'm charging up, because when you charge the next turn when you attack, actually I think it's like 3 turns worth of damage if I'm being honest here. So you give up 1 turn, and then the next turn what happens is no matter what you do, at the very end of you'll have to use your charge the next turn. It's you can't hold it like with charge like the greatsword. So the charge is immediately used the next turn, and what that means is that at the very end of the turn, you get a power shot. After everyone's attacked, you do 1 more follow-up attack, which does a crap ton of damage, and it's great because it happens at the very end of the turn. So if you ever get a monster toppled, with your final attack for the turn, you're gonna get an unbelievable crit. It's very high damage. There's a lot of monsters that are weak to piercing, so I think the bow is cool, but and then there's some abilities that are really important that you don't unlock unless you do the subquests, which kind of suck. But the bow has great potential. I just don't like forfeiting a turn. It just annoys me.
Doesn't seem like it's particularly fun to skip a turn.
Well, the payoff is huge, but you're relying so much on your other monster. So it's an interesting style where you're relying on your monster and the other players to hold the fort, and then the next turn you're just going to go boom. It kind of reminds me of like mages in Dragon's Dogma.
Yeah.
Like you charge up and then you have crazy potential, but that's not a weapon for just messing around.
Yeah.
And you can do lots of status is pretty easy to inflict with the weapon as well. Like there's poison shots and paralysis shots and stuff like that. So I like it. The bow is cool, but I've played it enough now that I feel like moving away. And tell us about the gun lance.
So the gun lance is a ton of fun. So the way the gun lance works is every turn you get 1 shell. Now, there's also armor skills that give you a chance of getting an additional shell. And I believe that if you land a crit, because I don't pay that much attention to the amount of shells I have, but I think that if you land a crit or you win a head-to-head, there's a chance of you getting another shell as well. So the way that it works is you're constantly gaining shells. And unlike the other weapons, so like, for instance, the greatsword, you have it charged up, you put it away because you have to swap weapons, you lose a charge. With the gun lance, you have like 3 shells, you put it away. When you take it back out, those 3 shells are still there.
Ooh,
so that's nice. Yeah, that is very nice. So this is very good to the core idea of the gun lance, because what you want to do with gun lance is you want to win head-to-heads. Because whenever you win a head-to-head with a shelling skill, it's going to give you tons of kinship. That's the magic of the gun lance, is winning head-to-heads with shelling skills. Now, there's 3 basic shelling skills. The gun lance has 8 shells, and the most basic one is just shell, which it's going to do poke shell. And that one costs 2 shells to use. So if you have 2 shells, you can do this. And if you win a head-to-head with shell, at the point that I'm at right now, which I have like what's it called? I have a kinship L charm. So it greatly increases the kinship gains. So 1 shell attack that I win with a head-to-head is half my kinship. Just straight up, half my kinship. Then there's another shelling skill, which is the worm stake. Worm stake takes 5 shells. If you win a head-to-head with the worm stake, for me right now, it's 90% of my gauge. Straight up, just 90% of the kinship gauge.
So here's a question: when you say head-to-head, do double counts?
No.
Do double attacks count, or it has to be
head
you versus me?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the thing is, like, you know how you have skills, and say for instance, someone's targeting your Monstie, and you will do like a skill with a weapon that is of the right typing. You'll go into a double attack. Doesn't happen with the gun lance. If I use a shelling skill, if I'm getting targeted, and like let's say I'm getting targeted by a power attack, and you can choose to do shelling of 3 types. You can choose shelling power, shelling speed, or shelling technical. All of the shelling attacks have that. And so I'm being attacked by power, and my Monstie has a speed attack ready to go. So if I do a speed attack, I'm going to do doubles. But if I do a shelling speed attack, I don't do a double attack. It actually does the shelling attack because they know that that's what's going to give you the most kinship. So whenever you choose a special gun lance attack, then you are not going to do a doubles attack.
It's like the opposite of hammer.
Yeah,
this is interesting.
So there's the shelling, the worm stake, and then there's one more which is burst fire. Now burst fire is weird. Burst fire uses all of the shells, but I feel like it doesn't even deal as much damage as the worm stake. But the thing is, burst fire does AoE. So if there's a bunch of monsters, you're going to hit all of them. It's not that much damage, but you hit everyone. And the thing with burst fire is if you win a head-to-head with burst fire, that's your full gauge every time. Regardless of kinship, buffs, or whatever, if you win a head-to-head with burst fire, that's full gauge. And then another thing that you have, which I don't know if other weapons have this, I don't think they do, is if you're at 100% kinship, you can choose to ride, or you can choose to wyvern fire. Wyvern fire is a weird one. Wyvern fire does not have a typing, unlike the other shelling attacks. It's one of those special skills, like the hammer skills, like that you charge up and whatnot, don't have a type. And what it does is just an AoE blast, and it does a lot of damage. But it's one of the situations. If you're in a multi-target environment, it's better than riding. Depending on the monster that you have, because sometimes you also have AoE monsties, like Barioth does AoE. So it depends on the monster that you have.
AoEs are powerful in this game, yeah.
Yeah, AoEs are powerful. So with Wyvern Fire, you always hit AoE. And that's why the gun lance is so powerful for situations like PvP and stuff like that, because you can hit the player and the monstie. Or any situation where you can hit with AoE, Wyvern Fire is really good. It's not always the best, which requires you to really know what monster you have and all of that stuff, because Wyvern Fire is very situational. Not for me, though. I use it whenever I can because the animation is so goddamn good. It's just...
That's interesting, though. It's just like when you're being targeted head-to-head, you're like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I want. Like, dude, if I could be getting targeted 100% of the time, like, give me that. Give me that option. Just target me all the time. I'll have literally infinite kinship if the monster targets me all the time. I'll be kinshipping all the way. It's beautiful. Like, Gunlance is hands down, like, out of all the mechanics even in the game, despite the fact that I don't know if it's that powerful because of the fact that, like, they nerf the damage of it brutally. So I don't know how powerful it is, but it feels great.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Are you judging it off of the damage that you do to a monster, or what you see on the attack power screen?
Both,
because they bloat those. So like, I wouldn't pay too much attention to the damage number.
But like, for instance, a shelling at my level, which is like I have special armor to increase shelling damage and everything, which is not artillery. Interestingly enough, it's really weird the way that works. But even with all of the best stuff that I think you can possibly do to make shelling damage better, it's still not great when compared to other weapons. But the difference is I get so much kinship that I don't care. I'll just go do a kinship attack there.
Well, that's a huge difference, though, because some monsters like have, especially in the late game, have some really amazing abilities, but they cost like 30 kinship or 40 kinship. Like, they're expensive.
Yeah. I'll probably be able to do those whenever I want. This is not really a problem. I just get kinship so often that it's great.
Oh, that's nice.
But yeah, that's the
Then I
gun
guess
lance.
we'll wrap this up with the blunt weapons, which I've played a lot of.
I need you to tell me
So I'll
about the
start with
hunting
hammer.
horn. No. Start with the hunting horn because I know nothing of the hunting horn.
So the hunting horn's nice because, like we were saying before, blunt has the special characteristics that is generally good for breaking parts. So not only you're getting a lot of items, you can also down monsters. It's all around a good thing. Breaking parts is quite important mechanic in the game. So it's got that going for it. It does decent damage, but the thing is that it comes with songs. And the whole point is like you have healing horns, you have buff horns, all these. So you're giving up a turn. You're not attacking, but the buffs are so good. For example, there's a buff that one of someone else, I think Yuna did it. Is like raises the rate in which your kinship gauge goes up.
Yep. I've seen that buff.
And that thing is so powerful that all I need is one double attack and I've got full gauge. Like that's it. Boom. It's crazy.
I haven't noticed. I've received that buff, but I haven't noticed like getting full gauge with one thing. Weird.
And then there's ones that buff up your defense, which makes it really. There's a lot of times I think in the game that if you know the monsters really well, there's that one turn where you're like, okay, I could probably my hunter can just do whatever. Like it's like let's say it's a Diablos and he's going to bury himself in the ground or whatever. It's like, well, I'm not going to throw an item yet, so like, or he's going to charge up. So it's like everyone just get in your free hits. I think I'm going to play a song. Yeah. Because I'm also the type of person that I will often, if I can get a back attacks are awesome with hunting horn because you can start off by buffing everybody and you're totally safe. So if you want to increase everyone's defense or attack, like that's it. And they all last for like 5 turns, which is awesome. So hunting horn I like it's good for back attacks. It's good for when monsters are doing like charging or weird things. And it's just more powerful when you have full team with like another player or NPC, which is pretty much always the case. So I like it a lot. And then, there's also like, there's one that heals every single status ailment on everybody. A song.
Oh,
that's
now
awesome.
That sounds really good. But here's an interesting thing that I don't know if players are aware because I've had people like, how did you do that? It's like when you ride, all the status effects go away for you and your monstie, and your character gets healed to full, and your monstie gets healed not to full, but a significant chunk. So it's like, riding is not just an offensive option; is also a defensive option. Like people,
but
need
there
to
is a
keep that in
punishment
mind.
for it though. When you do your final, you're left with 0 gauge, and that can be devastating depending on the situation and the weapon that you're using. So you have to really think about it. Sometimes, it's just like, oh, I have no gauge.
I mean, all of the skills from my main weapon don't cost kinship, so.
I don't care. So that's the hunting horn.
Must suck.
The cool thing about the hunting horn is they kept the songs unique for every horn. So when you're playing, you get to hear like the songs, which is great.
Yeah,
it's just for a hunting horn lover, it's fantastic. So I had like the Duramboros one. It's like, it's like it's great. So those are fun, and then you have Hammer, which is my baby.
Dude, oh my God. Hammer is a lot of fun. I like Hammer.
So Hammer is cool in that. Unlike the greatsword, where you choose an attack and that's what builds your gauge, for Hammer you have to win 1-on-1s. It's like the gun lance in that way, right?
Yep, head to heads.
You get a head to head, and that will give you a charge if you nail it. You don't have to use a charge right away. You could just stock it, which is great. But as you stock them, there's 2 things you could do. You can there's like a cheaper version of a skill that will punish the monster if they're inflicted with a status ailment. So, for example, if you're fighting with Brachydios and you've given them Blast Blight, you can do like if you have the right hammer, you can do like a Blast Blight follow-up attack, which gives it like 20% more attack or something. Or you can go all the way up, and there's two moves that you can do with the hammer. It's very similar to Gun Lance in that regard, where you can use a lot of kinship gauge and you can do a really powerful attack. The final one, it's like it costs 30. It does so much damage, and it will. I guarantee it's so funny because I was like, "Hey, Yuna, You see the wing on this monster?
Yeah.
It's got it has no break damage yet, right? You want to see it get broken? Boom.
I did that on my stream all the time. I'd be like, "Hey guys, you guys want to see a magic trick? I'm gonna make this part of the monster disappear." Crack. And it's such a satisfying animation too. Your character starts spinning. It's just like a massive blast. It's so good. The ground breaks when you do it. It's beautiful.
When the monster is down, when everything's a critical, oh my Lord, is it fun.
You just destroy monsters like that. It's disgusting.
So I love the hammer, but it does rely on one-on-ones. It does not have a skill like you have with, you were saying, where you can taunt or try to get the monster to come towards you. It doesn't have that. It has no ability to guard, but you do get the absolute evasion, which is awesome. So basically, when you know that a monster's coming at you, right, and there's no target, which means that they're going to be doing a non-specific, non-blockable attack. Depending on the monster, you can kind of guess, like, okay, this is going to be like, you know, a super attack that's going to hit everybody.
Yeah.
You can just do absolute evasion, and then what you're doing is you're forfeiting your turn, but you're not taking anything. It doesn't matter what the attack is. You're evading it. So it's like, swing, and you just evade, and you're like, oh, I'm fine. I don't need to heal. I don't know about you guys. So it's really nice. And I actually have a skill like that I gave to my Rathalos. So like if there's like a huge attack, we'll both do it, and we're both like, we're fine.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I've noticed. I've had a lot of people ask me, how did I deal with certain bosses in the game? And it was interesting because I feel like with the head-to-head system, the community is always focused on attack, 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 attack. Very few people ever consider, wait, there's actually defensive options for where the monsters do these really nasty attacks. You can just block or dodge or get out of the. There's plenty of defensive options, and then I just
because a head-to-head, if your monster is not doing it, you take damage from a head-to-head, and it's not always.
And it's like I just tell people, listen, if you get to this point in this monster where he's about to do a devastating attack and you weren't able to stop it, you know, if you have a hammer, you have absolute evasion. If you have a gun lance, you can guard. If you have the sword and shield, you can guard. Your monstie might have a skill, like one of the monsters that you have by default will have that skill to allow him to dodge stuff. So there's always options, defensive options that you can take if you are having problems with a monster. Not saying that you have to do that all the time, but, you know.
Yeah, I think people might also forget that you can change your weapon every turn for free.
Yeah.
So it's like if you see a big attack is coming, you can just pick up a weapon that has guard or pick up a weapon that has evasion and just be like, nope.
Yeah, and just ignore
changing your weapon has very little downside depending on like if you lose your charge or something. But changing out your monster obviously has some consequences in that your kinship gauge is reliant on that monster. So sometimes I'll build up some and I'll put them back in stock, and then I'll bring back another.
Build up multiple kinship gauges. Yeah, it's good.
So I think that if you guys weren't aware of how that works, I think that was a good rundown of the weapon types. Yeah. You're going to be you don't have to use all of them. You should because it's fun and it's easy. But I'm sure there's something in there that you'll find that you love. Yeah, at least one of them's gonna touch you funny.
You should use at least one of each type. That would be my advice. Even though it's not like just because you hit the monster and you're like, oh, I can't hit this part with this weapon. I got to swap weapons first chance I get. That's not how I play with the gun lance. Like I'll be like, okay, but the monster might target me next turn. I might be able to counter something, whatever. And if I'm able to counter with the gun lance, it's still valuable because I can still get kinship, which then lets me ride. And even if my weapon isn't dealing damage, it can still do useful things. Or like
Gaijin you can plow through. Yeah,
you can pick up the hammer and just break stuff, even if they're not particularly weak to hammer. So there's plenty of situations to exploit monsters' weaknesses, even with the wrong weapon type, so long as you know what you're doing. Because the combat system allows you to do some really crazy and interesting stuff.
It's less stat dependent and more strategy dependent and setup dependent. So
but if you want to see big numbers, you want to line up the right weapon with the right weak spot for sure, because that's the way to go about it. But yeah,
Oh
it's,
man,
I've been super addicted, and I feel
there's
like
just too much to talk about. I got notes, and I'm just like, every one of these subjects we can talk about for like an hour. It's like,
yeah. I feel like we should talk to people about Endgame since that is kind of like a big deal as well. The amount of content that is in Endgame. Like I finished the game, I think it was yesterday, and then I already streamed like all day today for over 10 more hours, and
ugh,
I would say that I'm still only like scratching the surface of the end game. Like the easiest way I feel like to tell people, because I've been asked multiple times now, is like, okay, so listen, you know how in a regular Monster Hunter game you have your low rank and you have your high rank. When you finish the story, it means you finished low rank and you've unlocked high rank because that's literally what happens in the game. That's literally what happens. You finish the story, you unlock high rank, and you can like, just like in a regular Monster Hunter game, there's a whole new suite of armors that you can craft. There's a whole new suite of weapons that you can craft, and you know that's pretty much how it works.
that's awesome, man. Sorry.
So,
Oh my god. Sorry, I'm
how?
being. My head is just flooded with different topics I want to talk about in this game. People are
Okay,
like, why haven't you made a video yet on this
yeah,
game? Because I'm playing it. I
yeah,
love the Super Rad had a did you see Super Rad's video? I saw that, and then after that I was off YouTube. Like I stayed off YouTube until I got to this story. Like I didn't even boot up the app or go to the site.
which super rad video? The one where he said that Rise is poo poo caca?
No. I mean, he's been
Because that
doing
was
some really
fun
fun
too.
memes on. He had one where it was like 30 seconds long, or not even that, and it was like I can't remember what was on the screen. He put a really clickbaity title
Of
to get
course.
people to click it,
And he got
and
you to,
then
he
he
freaking
waited
got
like
you.
he did said like 4,000 hours, like blah blah blah, the best in the game, and like trying to get people to click it.
Yeah.
And then it's like 20 seconds of just like a song or something looping. Then you see him like walk into the green screen and be like, huh? Wait, like, oh shit, this is still going. This is on. And he's like, wait, you clicked on this? Monster Hunter Stories 2 is out. What are you doing, man? Go play it. And that was it. It was really great. Just his delivery of that was fantastic. But yeah, I mean, I just been playing the game, man. I just love it.
Yeah,
It's
it
so
was pretty
good.
much the same for me. I even made a video warning people on YouTube like, listen, I'm gonna be streaming this game. I'm gonna be playing this game. I don't know about making content for it because I don't know what I even would want to make, and not to mention that for some reason, YouTube apparently does not consider stories to be in the same level as Monster Hunter usual videos.
Yeah.
So it just like stifles them completely. But another thing about YouTube and stories too has been that I've heard from a lot of people that like day one they were spoiled to the final boss on YouTube thumbnails. Day
Yep. That's
one.
how it works.
It's
I
just
don't.
like it always baffles me. Like how do people even get access to the game to already be at the final boss day one? Like they have to be going like a store and break and street date, right? Like that's the only explanation that I have.
No, there's a few ways that it works. I think one is someone's working at GameStop and they had it a few days
Yeah.
early and they just speed it through and then try to make money on the clicks. The other one is I would not doubt that some channels either have a friend or they pay off them to get footage from someone who has, let's say, like a review copy or something.
Oh God, that's
And
disgusting.
the worst case is someone gets a review copy, they stock up a bunch of stuff, and then on midnight they hit publish on everything.
Yeah, you're. I mean,
But the thing
that breaks embargo though. You're not supposed to do that. That breaks embargo on
it's
so many ways, but you know.
it's bad, yeah. So I did again what I did with Rise during that one point for the day where I went off.
Media
I
blackout, yeah.
stopped going on. Yeah, I mean I would go into Twitter and might tweet, but I never looked at my feed, and I would try not to look at responses, and I never went to YouTube, didn't watch anything, and I highly recommend it if you're going through the story because you don't want. I mean,
I
even if it's
just
spoiled, you'll still enjoy it. But I mean, like you kind of want to experience it.
I just made sure that my YouTube homepage is flooded with recommendations from different things so that Stories 2 stuff just doesn't pop up because I haven't watched any Stories 2 stuff and I've been following an interesting thing that's been happening in Final Fantasy 14, so most of my recommendations are about that.
Yeah.
So I don't even have to worry. I can go on YouTube and I don't even get recommended like Stories 2 videos. So that's fine.
Well, it's funny because like I got through the story and I'm like, okay, I've seen the story final boss. Like, there's relatively no more spoilers for me. I'm gonna go on YouTube. I'm gonna go on YouTube and watch some videos while I do some work. The moment I opened up something that was spoiled to me, I'm like,
of course,
oh, Jesus Christ, come on.
Of course, like
I'm happy. I'm happy that there's still stuff that's considered spoilers after you beat the story. But come on, people.
Like I haven't been spoiled yet, but from what I can tell from the stuff that they do once you get to Endgame, I'm like, yeah, there's still plenty of stuff here that can be spoiled. I wouldn't be too surprised.
A lot to do.
Yeah, they.
So before we go into talking about Endgame, do you want to go over just either some just do some housekeeping, like talk about things that you really liked, or even let's do a fun section where we actually complain about a game and we give some gripes, because everyone seems to think that it's impossible for me to do that because I'm a shill and getting $1 million from Capcom in my bank account every month or something.
Okay,
like
so complaining about Stories 2.
It's not really a complaint, but like if we can nitpick, I would say at this point they're all nitpicks.
So my nitpicks would be the obviously the performance, but there's not. I don't know what you can do to fix that because at the end of the day, it's running on a friggin' Switch, which we all know is already outdated hardware.
This is a Tegra, for God's sake. I don't even know how they get the stuff running on it. It's amazing.
So it's amazing that it runs as well as it does, but that's one of the things, obviously performance. The other thing for me would be Roberto's voice acting, which the English version I did not like at all. I feel like the side quest thing that we talked about, that is something that is almost important enough to be addressed in a patch to mark some of those side quests as more important so that people know, okay, so this side quest is actually something that I should focus on versus like, this side quest gives you 2 life powders. It's like, what do I care? I can just buy it. I have like 1 million Zenny.
Yeah.
So,
also, the game does a really good job of not shoving tutorials in your face, but what I wish they would have added on that subject is the fact that you can retake subquests.
Yeah.
Is actually a really big deal. For example, I was wanting to make a full Legiana set, and Legiana was not easy to get to spawn in the maps that I was at.
You can just take
but there was a subquest that gives it a guarantee spawn, which is why you were saying that you just generally accept all the side quests. I don't, because it locks in what monsters I'm going to see, because when you select the side quest, it's a guarantee spawn. They're going to be in the area so you can take care of, which I love. I think that's so user-friendly. But it means that you can use, once you get a side quest for a monster that you want to grind, you're like, yeah.
For most of them, they give you like dens, so it's not a big deal.
A den.
Yeah.
Some of them, yeah.
Although I've been learning that is actually a bad thing to have all of those dens in there, because people have told me that the high rank, like super rare dens look very similar to side quest dens.
They kind of do. Yuna got one. I've never had one in my game yet. Apparently, it's like less than a 1% chance of it ever appearing.
Oh, I'm never gonna get one. Then. Yeah, I'm never. Gonna see one.
I think I saw someone I don't know if it was data mined or guessed, but I think they said it was like a 0.1% chance, and I believe it.
Yeah.
I spent like 3 hours just recycling to see if I can find one. Nope. Yuna got one, and I was super jealous. We'll get into that. That's endgame discussion, but
yeah. So there's that. The whole thing with the assets on the levels, I wish there were a couple of more of them. But yeah, besides that, I don't like. I pretty much loved everything else about it. So yeah.
Nice. I have a very small list of critiques, only because I'm getting sick of this meme that I can't critique Monster Hunter games at all. I'm endlessly apologetic.
So, so,
Apparently,
so look at what you did, guys. Now he's gonna go the entire opposite direction, and we're gonna have like a Sony situation here.
no.
Capcom's gonna be cutting
game,
ties with you after this podcast.
No, at this point, this is like the game to me so far, and I'm not even through it. Is an A plus. Like it's already 100 out of 100 for what I wanted. So this is basically me saying, well, I'm not going to give you all the extra credit points. I'm going to give you some of it. I'll take off a few for these. One is the game does a really good job of having save points in good locations that you can jump to. Like not save points, but checkpoints that you can
checkpoints.
Instantly jump to. But there are a few points during the game before a boss battle that they very curiously do not put. They purposely make you go through kind of like a labyrinth to get to the boss. And the problem is that it's just, if you die to the boss, it's kind of tedious to have to go back to that save point and then go like, grab your Narga, go and run all the way back up to the boss just to fight it again. And I'm like, why didn't you just get, because what they do for those areas, just so, because you look at like you probably don't know what I'm referring to, but
I have no idea.
For those bosses, there's always a feline
burrow
den nearby, but it's a temporary one that you can go just to heal up before the big boss. But you can't use it as a quick travel spot. Those maps are ones where you have to do quite some trekking in order to get to the boss every time.
Yes.
I found that a little annoying. I wish they didn't do that. I would just give me a checkpoint near the boss, so I can just go back in there.
So you just don't like the fact that what they give you is the feline thing, because you're kind of committed. You can't go back. You're committed. Otherwise, you have to.
Yeah, well,
run
that
all the
and
way
if
back.
you lose, it's kind of annoying to run all the way back.
I mean, but if you lose, they just spawn you back at the burrow, right? No.
No.
But you can save at the burrow. Because all the burrows have catavan.
Are you gonna like? So what are you gonna do? Quit the game and then reload from there?
I mean, if they didn't spawn, I mean, I don't know, because this is gonna sound like a brag.
I haven't lost.
I never lost. Like, I'm sorry.
No, if you lose, it brings you back to like I think it's a town, or I can't remember where it is, but it's not.
Oh
there,
yeah, it does. It does. That's right. Because I've lost once today at Endgame because I went in there with low rank against one of the hardest high rank monsters in the game. I was like, man, this monster keeps running after me, man. Fuck him. And I was like, oh no, I've made a mistake. He beat the crap out of me.
One of them is I kind of wish they had a tutorial mission for each weapon type, just so people that can understand them a little bit better. But then again, maybe they just
so
like, you know what, it's not that hard to grasp.
So long as it was optional, I'd be okay with it. But personally, I prefer just like learning on the go. One of the things that I would like in regards to that would actually be a training room. I would kill for a training room.
A what?
A training room. Yeah, I could do with a training room in this game because. So look, there's a specific skill, and this is going to be very specific. There's a specific skill that is called All Out. What that skill does is you gain more, you use more kinship whenever you use a kinship skill, but in return it increases the damage.
Yeah.
So today I've actually had to test that because I had suspicions that it wasn't working properly with the gun lance because it almost feels unfair, but hey, I have kinship skills that don't use kinship gauge, but are affected by All Out.
They're kinship skills.
Yeah, exactly. So I needed to test that out, and it was weird because I would go fight a monster, and then sometimes the monster would target me, and then my attack would deal more damage because I would win a head-to-head. And it's like, oh, dude, just give me a training room so that I can really flesh this out. I have to do this in a live environment against monsters. It was a little bit annoying, but yeah.
Okay, then I think, let's see. Okay, this is not really much of a nitpick, but maybe they could improve it a little bit. But when you do co-op with another player, it's locked to ×2 speed. You can't use ×3 speed.
Wait, can you not do ×1? Like if I want to play with a friend at ×1?
You probably can. I think you can.
Okay, so you just can't do ×3.
The max it goes to is 2.
Okay.
Yeah, it's probably for processing and stuff, which I wish that there was the option, but it's no big deal. That, and I think the AI. This is not really a complaint. This is more just a note here. The AI that they give you if you don't have Switch Online or you don't have the ability to play with a friend and you just want to do some co-op quests,
they're too strong.
The AI partner they give you is so competent that I almost feel that people are not going to do. They're not going to do rooms with randoms that much because the AI characters are really good. Like I think it's fantastic. So they're not punishing anybody for not having friends or the ability to go online.
It's one of those situations where you make fun of your AI companions whenever they make a mistake. You're like, no, you idiot. Look, it's a power attack. What are you doing a technical attack? What are you doing? So in multiplayer, he just like trounces everything. And you're like, yeah, good job.
No, it's motivating because you don't want to get shown up by the NPC.
Imagine the NPC doing better than you.
Yeah, well, you don't want to feel like you're getting carried by the NPC. But they did a very good job. The other one is there's a character I absolutely hate. Like, it's not that it's a badly designed character. It's not like it has bad voice acting like Roberto. I just, as a character, you know, like how you always hate like the villain in the game, or you hate the protagonist because they're self-righteous or something. Like there's always something like a character that you just really hate just because of who they are. Which is actually a sign of really good character development.
Exactly. I was going to say this sounds like a good thing. It's almost like that. You know the kid in Game of Thrones, the kid who was king. Everybody hated
Joffrey,
that.
God, man, his acting was good.
Everybody hated him, and I'm like, yeah, that's great friggin' acting. Like if everybody hates
really
him,
good.
That's good acting.
Amazing.
That means dude was doing great.
Yeah. So I won't even name it. Because I don't really want to talk about anything spoiler or anything story related, but there's one character that makes my blood boil so much.
If it is who I think it is, I hate them too. Don't worry about it.
Okay, good. But that was just a funny note I had. So if I'm going to make a video in the next few days, I'll tell you exactly what video it'll be because it's something that I'm actively looking for, and I cannot find any video or any tip or advice for it, and it's bugging the hell out of me, which is Zenny is hard to come by in this game.
What?
You are going to be... What do you mean, what?
What are you talking about?
It's Zenny.
Did you ever go to a store and then go to sell trade-in items?
I've also had to sell off my old armor and weapons, and I still don't have enough.
I have 1 million Zenny.
I have maybe 1,000 right now. I've never had...
How much armor are you crafting? I've crafted like the whole game. I've crafted like 5 sets of armor and I don't know, maybe 20 weapons.
Are you upgrading them to level 3?
Yeah. The only time I didn't upgrade to level 3 was right close to the end of the game because the things that I needed to upgrade to level 3 was going to be tedious to grind, and I didn't feel like grinding them, and it didn't feel like I needed it anyway because I was destroying everything already.
How are you getting Zenny? Because like upgrades are costing like 15,000 Zenny, 20,000 Zenny, 30,000 Zenny. Now if I want to buy a weapon, it's 50,000 Zenny. I'm like, what the hell?
It's like 40,000 Zenny to craft the current weapons.
It's
crazy. I mean, here's the thing. I don't know if you're skipping picking up things, but I literally pick up everything.
No, I'm picking up everything.
Yeah, every place I go, I pick up literally everything. You know, before you get to the nest, I do the little circle, pick up all the things.
Yeah.
So
I do that.
I do that. Besides that, I guess I just do a lot of side quests. I don't know, but it's like, to me, I've had a little bit of Zenny problem at the start. But then because I just end up fighting so many monsters, I guess maybe I fight more monsters than you do. Because like when I played through the game, my rule was like, if I manage to avoid a monster, cool. If the monster got me, then it's like, okay, fair game. Now I have to fight it. I would fight the monsters. Did
Me
you
and Yuna are
did you
both
use the
poor.
runaway options whenever?
I've used it before, yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That might be it. Because like I actually forced myself to fight. If a monster got me during the playthrough of the story, now that I'm at endgame, it's like, look, I don't feel like fighting this monster, whatever. But like during the story itself, every time a monster got me, I'm like, well, gotta fight. I would fight it out every single time. So that might be why I ended up having more materials, but I don't think that alone would justify it. I've also done quite a few of the Everdens, but I haven't done all of them. Like I think I've cleared
I don't know, Mom.
the first, second, and third areas of Everdens. All of them. I don't know if you did that.
Weird.
Yeah,
There's a lot of evidence I have not done yet.
Okay, yeah, but it's like I have a million Zenny. Like I don't have any Zenny problems whatsoever. But the thing is,
For me, it's been worse than Rise. Like me and Yuna are both, we're selling off stuff we don't want to sell just to get a little bit of money so we can buy a life powder.
but you have used the sell trade-in option, right? The sell trade items.
Yeah, all the time.
Okay, do you send your monsties out to get stuff for you?
I did on occasion. Yuna hasn't even touched the system.
Yeah, I also send them out for stuff all the time. And
That
as a
might
matter,
be it.
but interestingly enough, only today I learned how you unlock additional slots on that thing because that thing is
Yeah.
terribly, it's really bad. Because you know how they tell you that you need expedition tickets to go on multiplayer? And then what do they call the thing that unlocks more slots for your to be able to send out monsties to get stuff for you? They call them expedition tickets. And I'm just like, I thought these were for multiplayer, but then there's like, oh no, expedition ticket plus. This is the thing that buys more slots to send your monsties out. So only today I found that out, and I was like, come on, dude.
I was just saying, when it comes
idea.
to UI, most of the UI is sublime and really well done. And intuitive. There are a few things that are just like, what? The other one is it's the same shop. It's the bottle cap shop. Is how many people, including myself, I did not know that you could tab over. And there's a whole nother list of items.
What do you mean?
There's two tabs
over?
of items. So when you go up to the cat to buy the stuff, you get a list of all the items. And once you buy them, they disappear. But if you tab over, if you press R, it goes to an unlimited tab of items that you can buy as much as you want. And that's where they have stuff. That's where they have stuff like you can buy the items that you need to unlock slots for your monsters. You can buy those unlimitedly. If you want to get like strength, like the permanent strength boost, you can buy those infinitely. If you want to get
I've seen those. Yeah, I've seen those.
Yeah, and it's the only way to get the SR ticket, which costs 100 bottle caps.
Yeah, I've always knew that was there. Yeah, I've always known that was there. I've always scrolled through that.
I didn't know. Okay, well, I guess my gripe is a personal problem because I thought this was worse than Rise when it comes to Zen. Like, I just cannot get Zen.
No, I don't think it's just you because I've had plenty of people ask me like, "Hey, Rurikhan, how do you make Zenny?" And I'm like, I just sell trade-in items. I just have so many of them all the time. Like even earlier today when I was in stream and someone asked me that, I just went to the vendor and was like, yeah, look, see, here's 65K that I had on me.
Yeah, but 65K won't even give me two things. That gives me one thing.
Yeah, but it's like I'll get 65K every time I go out. Every time I go out to do anything, I come back to town, boom, 65K. I don't know. Maybe I've been lucky. I don't know. But like, I always seem to have plenty of Zenny. But again, it all depends on how many armors you're crafting. Because like, you know, I'm crafting anything that does gunland stuff. And like, for instance,
I have a few for different weapons.
Well, there you go. There, you're spending a lot of money on armor. Probably. That's what I would imagine. Because like, for instance, to give you an idea, I went straight from low rank armor to Celtis.
Huh.
Just straight up to high rank. It's like, boom. It's a massive upgrade. So that's why I was running around in high rank in low rank gear. It's like, oh, okay.
Crazy. Do I have any? I won't talk about that. No, I won't talk about that. There's some things I want to talk about, but I won't talk about.
Some things you want to bring up,
anything
but
else?
you don't want to talk about them just yet. You're not ready.
Well, yeah. Well, I don't think that it's borderline. I don't want to touch it because I don't want to talk about story stuff. So
Yeah,
I have very little gripes about the game. I love this game.
there's the story. I don't think anybody's going to be disappointed with the story. I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed it. So I don't think there's going to be problems there. But I could be wrong. You know, it's whatever.
Yeah. So stepping around any spoilers, do you want to quick talk about high rank?
Yeah.
Or, basically, once you clear the game.
Let's talk. Let's talk about the high rank. So that without going into spoilers, I mean, they kind of said in the event. I think they even said the name of the area that they unlock, pretty much, which is
yeah. They've tweeted it out. It's no hidden thing.
So that's not a spoiler. It's after you finish the game, you're going to get access to an area called the Elder's Lair. But it's almost like when you finish the game, they give you access to, for starters, they instantly unlock a bunch of high rank things. So you start seeing things in the world, even if you don't go after the quests themselves, you will start instantly seeing like high rank dens, rare high rank dens, all that stuff instantly starts populating the world. So you will encounter high rank stuff, even if you don't start any of the subsequent quests. So that's just like an instant system, like to give you guys an idea. The second I finished the story, like I stopped my live stream because I wanted to go home. I went home and I was just like running around doing dens, and I picked up my favorite Monstie and a rainbow egg. And I was like, oh, wow, that's nice. I didn't even know I could do that because it wasn't even in a high rank den. It was like a regular den. And boom, here's my favorite Monstie that only unlocked after high rank unlocked. So, you know, stuff like that. So instantly you can access that. But besides that, they give you two paths that you can kind of choose. One of the paths leads you down the trail of deviance. This is not the Elder's Lair path. It's just a separate quest line that you start doing, and it starts taking you down. You go look for a bunch of monsters, and eventually you start finding the deviants. The other path that you do is the Elder's Lair. You didn't know that?
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Exactly.
You're not talking about co-op SR dungeons, right?
No.
Oh my!
In the
God.
game,
This is one of my complaints is how bad they explain what is post.
Yeah, here's the thing. I had no idea this was there, but the second I finished story, someone in my stream told me you should talk to that character that's next to your house. There's a scrivener next to your house in Mahana, doesn't even have a blue exclamation mark, starts the quest chain, the deviants.
What the hell? Yeah, this is actually kind of a problem because I actually because the game only tells you one thing when you clear the game. It says, "Oh, there's the elder thing. Go do it," and then you get your ass kicked immediately because you're not supposed to go in there yet.
Yes, you are. What do you mean?
Well, you have low rank gear on.
So, actually, I think the Elder's Lair. I think the Elder's Lair is the perfect chance for you to progress because that's what I did. I just went into the Elder's Lair and I started killing stuff.
Yeah, so like it's getting flustered because she didn't even know that there was high rank dens. She just thought, okay, here's the layer, like go for it. I'm like, honey, there's a lot more. And she's like, what?
It's not like the high rank dens give you anything special. Like they give you new genes, sure, but other than that,
no. But the monsters on the field can be high rank, and then you can start making high rank weapons and armor.
Yeah, but it's. I feel like the monsters that are in the first portion of the Elder's Lair, it's almost intended that you go fight those monsters so that you start unlocking high rank armor. Like I did, to give you an idea, I did the first two areas of the Elders stuff with low rank gear, and it was not a problem at all. I just trounced.
Well, there was one quest. I don't know what level you were, but like had a problem with a specific fight in the first part of the layer.
I think I know which one it is.
Yeah.
I was also kind of scared of that fight. So I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Hey, I don't know what that's about. But then I went in there and I was like, oh, this was actually pretty easy. So yeah, okay.
Actually, about that fight, I won't say who it was, but
yeah,
there was like two monsters that I had to fight at the same time, and I had my white monoblos do that attack that has a small chance of doing an instant kill. And as a joke, I just had to do it, and it hit and instantly killed one monster. I'm like, nice! And then I did one head-to-head to get some more gauge, and then I did it again on the other monster, and it procced again. I'm like, oh, that was easy.
See, that was not a problem at all. It was fine. But what level were you? Maybe it was a level like, I think I was 42 when I was at Endgame. I think around there.
Oh, wow.
No, wait, was it 40? No, wait.
When we finished this...
45, between 45 and 47, something like that. Yeah.
When we finished the story, we were 36.
Yeah, it's what I'm telling you, dude. And here's the thing. It's not like I was trying to overlevel the content. It's just like, I want to do this thing. I don't even want to get experience for it. I just want to go do it. But the game is giving me tons and tons of experience. Like, I got to a point where, like, most of the monsters before the final boss,
insta-kill?
I was just like insta-killing everything. I was like, oh man, this sucks. Like, I'm insta-killing everything. Oh no, wait. There's one thing that oh my god. Listen, there's one monster in this game. I hate him. I hate fighting him so much that if I could, I would delete him from the entire franchise.
Oh, I want to guess who this is.
I would delete him from the whole franchise, and I would never hear of him again, just so that I wouldn't have to fight him in Stories 2 ever again. Both of his iterations. Screw them both. Delete him. God
okay,
damn it!
just tell. I don't. I'll spend too much time guessing who it is.
He goes like this.
Oh, come on. He's my boy.
No, dude, I would, oh my God, dude, I hate fighting him. It feels like, it's almost like.
Because you're not using hammer.
Every monster, there's like a logic to it. You go like for instance, you go to fight a Diablos, you're like, okay, this Diablos is going to throw power at me. And now it's enraged. It's probably going to be speed. It's like, there's a logic to them. Logi feels like he just throws dice. Not a lot. What an idiot.
Huh?
Agnactor.
Oh, it's because you were saying logic. Logic.
Yeah, logic. Agnactor. Agnactor is like, it's just throwing dice. It's like, it's dice, man. You know, he's gonna do whatever he's gonna do, and it's not gonna make any sense whatsoever. Whatever he does, it's pointless. It's pointless. Like, I know that there's a pattern there. It's just his pattern is so weird that I friggin' hate him. I hate him. And it's not even that I know when the phase changes happen, but they make no sense. It's like, hey, when he's got more stuff on him, he's fast. Why?
Just grab a hammer, smack his ass around.
Yeah, just grab a
He's weak as hell to hammer, just like everything else.
I hated his fight so much. Every time I had to fight him, I hated it.
Well, there's one monster I'm okay with it, but Yuna was really raging last night to the point where I had to pick up the controller and do it for her. Which is, when you get into high rank, you need a material from a very small monster. And that small monster is found nowhere in the game, except one place. And it always is paired with other large monsters, and it's a pain in the butt. I'll just say, because this is not a spoiler, Vespoid. The stupid Banahabra wannabe.
Why is it?
You probably haven't made the armor it is, but there's several armors that require like 6 Vespoid parts. The problem with Vespoid is it only appears in one specific area in the game, and it's always paired with large, strong mid-tier monsters, and you only get one item from them, or you might get unlucky and you get a currency item. So to get 6 of those things took like 40 minutes.
Damn.
Because one, you got to get them to spawn. Then when you get them to spawn, you've got to go through the entire hunt of the high rank mid-game monster. Then you only get 1 or 2 if you're really lucky. 0 if you're really unlucky. You get like no parts. And you need 6 or so just to upgrade it. It was just like,
damn,
super frustrating. Yeah,
that's
so Vespoid's kind of a bitch.
I haven't needed Vespoids yet, so yeah.
I'm sure there's an NPC out there that has like a Vespoid quest, and it's just Vespoids or something.
There might be, but yeah,
But man, I did not know. When Yuna comes home from school, I'm gonna have to tell her about this. I thought I did not know about this. Yeah, and she did not know. Like, there's so much in the end game.
And here's another thing. So as I was going through this quest, it's a chain. Eventually, one of the characters in the quest line tells me, "Oh, by the way, you should go here. Someone here wants to talk to you." And you go there, and again, there's no quest marker. You talk to literally everyone, and one of the characters there will tell her like, "Hey, I'd like to see this kind of egg. Could you bring it to me?" And still, there's no quest marker. Nothing. All I know is that I got to go get an egg and take it to this one character, and that's going to unlock something. But there's nothing to tell you that. Just like there's nothing to tell you about this is one of the things that this is definitely streamer privilege of someone already having gone through it. And, you know, just as I finish the story in a very non-spoiler way, they just tell me, "Hey, there's a character next to your house. You might want to talk to her." I was like, okay. So I talked to her, and then she tells me, "You should go to this place and talk to this other character." Again, no quest icons until you talk to her the first time. Then she gives you a quest. And I was like,
that's crazy.
This is weird.
So have you gone through the whole Elder thing? I'm only on floor 2. I only did floor 1 yesterday, and Yuna hasn't touched it.
I completed floor 2 of Elder's Lair.
Okay.
The next trial requires, at least I think it's going to require a significant amount of min-maxing to do properly. So that's what I'm doing right now.
I was going to say, I like how they made it feel, at least from what I know about it, because I don't know everything about it. It sounds like the end game, for that part of the end game, it's kind of like the tower idea they did in Monster Stories 1, but it's not the same. It's different. It's more unique.
Yeah, I don't know how it was in Stories 1, but you know, from what you've told me,
of floors of fighting.
It just seems like it's something.
But so you got that. That's like long-term goals, and that's stuff to grind for and do, which is awesome. I don't even know what the payoff is, and even if I did, I wouldn't say. And then I guess there's a whole quest line that I did not know about.
Yep,
that's awesome.
Yep.
Then you've got the fact that the world is now populated with high-rank monsters and dens and stuff. There's something I noticed. I don't know if you took notice, but the high rank gear. Every single monster that I have craftable in my list, all of their armor is basically the same power. They're all super viable. Like Bullfango compared to Black Diablos. Like there's no difference at all in the defense rating. It's just very different skills.
Oh, I hadn't noticed about the defense of the different armors.
They're all the same rarity, and they're totally everything is viable. Like Great Jaggy, like everything is just completely same rarity, all viable, just a very different skill setups, but all very good. So I'm like, oh my god, did they make everything viable in Endgame? That's awesome.
That is awesome if they do that, because that's one of the things that I always talk about in mainline Monster Hunter entries. Like, I wish more armors were viable.
Well, I think
especially in World where we just end up with Fatalis, and it's like, there you go, done.
I mean, yeah, this game is lucky that it has more variables to play with, whether it's synergy with kinship or the weapon archetype or stuff like that. But it's really well done. Like because I'm going to 100% this game. There's no way I'm not. And it's just like every single armor piece is attractive. All of them. I'm just like, wow.
I have noticed that. Like, I look at the armors and I'm like, oh, this would be great for this thing. This would be great for that thing. But I'm just looking for stuff that improves gun lance. I'm just like, no, it has to improve gun lance. It's all about the gun lance.
So there's another end game loop, so to say, which I don't know if you've done, which is what I did yesterday, which is the bottle cap loop and the co-op loop. So
no, I haven't done co-op at all.
Yeah, so the co-op's fun, but there is a type of quest that you can do in co-op. Again, when I say co-op, you can do that single player. You don't need another person.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just called explore this area, and there's one for every archetype region. Like explore the desert, explore the ice area. There's like one for every area, and depending on the ticket, because it requires an adventure ticket or whatever they call it to go on it. Depending on the rarity of the ticket, changes the rarity of that area. And so there is at the bottle cap vendor an SR ticket. Remember, the SR caves have like a less than 1% chance of spawning. You can make the area a super rare, high rank SR area, which means Elder Dragons and Deviant eggs. You can make it an SR if you spend 100 bottle caps to buy one ticket.
That's not even that much.
Now, I was going to say, so it sounds like a lot, but there is one. This is crazy. I didn't even know this was a thing, so I'm really happy I discovered this. Is how you earn like these little like expedition like orange tickets, the normal ones throughout the game, and you probably have like a dozen of them.
No, actually, I don't. I don't know how you earn them. I don't think I have any. I think I have like 3 or something like that.
Yeah, so when you spend one and you just go on just a normal expedition that is star rated for 8, because that's what you are post game. In those maps that spawn, you can get like 20, 30 bottle caps easily. So it's even better than ever done.
I've noticed that you get those on like high ranked dens as well. Like you tend to get some bottle caps and stuff. One of the when we were talking about complaints, one of the things that I forgot to say is that I wish, and I've talked about this in the previous podcast as well, I think, I wish we had lobbies. There's no lobby system in multiplayer, is there? It's just on a quest-by-quest basis. Your lobby is the quest that you post. So basically you have to rejoin the lobby every single time. I mean, the person joining you has to rejoin every single time. See, I think that they should have made
the good thing that I'll say is...
Like if they had a lobby, because like when I go play with a friend, I'm not going to be doing, let's do one quest and then each go about our merry ways. It's like I want to go do like 3, 4, 5, 6 quests in a row. So it makes sense to just maintain a lobby system like you do in a normal Monster Hunter session. You just have like your lobby, your friend goes there, and you're just like, boom, let's go.
Yeah, just that at least in the exhibition ones, which is the real meat that you want to do. At the end, like we spent, I think 35 minutes in that quest. It was a long thing because we collected everything. And when you spend 100 bottle caps, you get an SR. You go in there, and if you collect all the chests, now in an expedition you can't run away from any battle.
Is
so
there
you generally have it?
Is there traversal? Is there traversal in those?
No.
So you don't need like
traversal.
You don't need like climbing vines or go through rocks.
Oh, there's traversal.
Fuck.
No, there is.
Oh.
But the thing is the way that I've seen all of them used so far is that they are only there as shortcuts. They're not there.
That's fine.
Not as a mandatory thing. Like you're not locked out of getting a treasure chest because you didn't have this guy.
Because like my favorite monster's only ability is flying.
Yeah.
Which
so
I'm assuming you can't even fly.
Evidence.
You can't even fly on those,
no.
right? Yeah. Figured as much.
So we had a lot of fun. You can get a bunch of eggs, and at the very end of it, you get one Elder Dragon or Deviant. And it's random. It depends. Each area has different ones that you can pull from. And then if you beat it, you get to grab an egg. So it's quite exciting. It's a wonderful loop. But it costs 100 bottle caps, so it takes a little bit of grinding. But if you collect all the treasure things inside of one of those things, you get like 50 or 60 bottle caps anyways. So you get like half of it back.
And you can still do other multiplayer quests with your friends to like collect that. So, right?
Yeah, so there's a whole other endgame loop where you're doing exhibitions through the co-op function in order to earn awesome monsters. So there's like, I guess, at least three endgame loop things to engage with. And just the fact that they made it that you can, when you transfer genes over from one monster to another, the fact that you can place those things anywhere makes such a world of difference. Because in Stories 1, it was locked to the position it was at.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So like now, man, oh man, my white Diablos is so beefed up. It is disgusting. I want to get everything leveled, and I want to get everything level 2. So I'm like, I'm gonna go hunting for the same monster so I can level up all of its skills. I love it.
I haven't even started min-maxing to that level because I want to like fully form my team, and before I fully form my team, I need to see all of the monsters. And when you get to the end of the game, and you're like, you're not even 50% of seeing all of the monsters, sir. Yep. And you're just like, what? What are you? I literally just finished the story. What are you talking about? That's crazy.
You've seen not even half the game. It was like, oh my god.
It's
so lots of fun stuff to do.
Oh man.
But
so
those are my thoughts right now as I'm, I don't know, 75, 80 hours in. I love it. It's so good.
And look, guys, we wanted to talk some more, but we have some obligations that we both need to tend to, so we have to keep things, I would say, a little bit shorter, but we're still like almost 2.5 hours in.
Yeah, not very short.
It's still a little bit shorter than usually. Usually we go like 3 hours, but like, don't worry about it. We'll have a proper longer one next week. But for now, these are our thoughts on Stories 2. We're still pretty much hooked. And I'm still pretty much streaming it every day on Twitch. If you guys want to come hang out there, there'll be links to all that stuff, and links to all the Gaijin stuff as always in the description of this video. We'll see you guys in the next one. Stay strong, stay safe.
Happy writing.